All right, now we're live with Mr. ToborPrime.
Hey, dude.
So just go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself first.
So my name is Matt, and generally, I work on a game right now on Savage the Shard of Gosen, and I live stream it on Twitch. And I mean, that doesn't sound like much, I guess, when I put it just those two things, but that usually takes up a fair amount of time. So that's what I'm doing right now, anyway. And the game itself is a 2D action platformer RPG set in an old school sword and sorcery setting, like Conan the Barbarian, and it's retro inspired. So it's got chunky old pixel art and old chiptune music mixed with like some newer, higher fidelity kind of stuff, like electric guitars and junk like that. But that's mostly what I do, and I live stream it when I work on it.
So how did you start with that game? Is that your first game?
Kind of. I did take a C++ class in high school. Like for for some reason, my high school had C++ courses. And this was a
That's
while ago.
amazing.
Yeah, you and I are the same age, so we would have been in high school like around the same time. Did your high school have C++ or computer or anything?
We had Oregon Trail on Apple IIe.
Okay,
We
yeah.
still
So
had
I think
Go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying I think like in junior high we started like the Mac IIe, and then like one
Okay.
computer had Windows 95, and that was like a big deal.
Yeah, in grade school we had like some like Apple IIs and Atari like STs or something like that. But yeah, like for whatever reason in high school, we had a full-fledged C++ course where you could take like 2 semesters of it. And I did. I don't remember any of it though, but I in my class I made a shitty little like weird ASCII art game called Kill the Orc. There was one orc, and you were like this little guy that was composed of like his body was like the letter V, and like his arms were like forward slash and backslash, and like a T was the sword or something like that.
I
And like
remember like text adventures and little ASCII games too. I remember seeing that kind of stuff.
yeah, like, and it was like kind of like that. You run into an orc, and it was sort of like a rock paper scissors sort of thing. It was like, you use your sword, oh, but he uses his shield, kind of a thing. And I mean, I guess you consider that a game. Other than that, yeah, like Savage is like the first time I've attempted anything like this before.
And it's made in game what is it called? Game Maker Studio.
Game Maker Studio, yeah.
And that is what language is that? Its own?
It has its own proprietary scripting language called Game Maker Language, which I've been told is similar to Java, like as far as the syntax goes and stuff. I don't know because I don't know Java, but that's what I've been told.
Oh, okay. I remember the Visual Basic, I think, is similar to Java. And I remember trying to learn that, and I couldn't get very far with that.
Yeah, I've never. The only programming language I've ever like really played with was C++, and then now with Game Maker.
And do you know
So my actual experience with that stuff is very limited.
and do you know HTML?
Oh, I guess
Besides
some, yeah,
MySpace?
like I could change the background color. Look at my page.
Besides,
Like, oh, now it's blue.
changing your MySpace page. Dude,
Yeah.
I
Or
remember
City's page, or
I remember like early 2000s, my cousins, she would came over, she's like, "Oh, can you help me with my MySpace page? You know HTML, like I was a god back then with my HTML
yeah.
basics, Like, and I learned HTML like in the late 90s, a little bit of HTML. Cuz
Yeah, everybody
there
wanted
wasn't much to learn
sparkles.
back then. It was like background, font size, header.
Yeah.
That's it. You couldn't really change much in HTML back then.
No. Yeah, and maybe like link an image in there somewhere, like a
Yeah.
really low quality, crappy image.
That's
The good old
awesome.
days.
The good old days. So your pixel art experience.
I used to draw on my computer. Draw. Um, we had a Performance Series Macintosh Power PC, which, as I understand it, was like Apple's worst line of computers, pretty much. So that's when I got into like PC and computing anything. And like I used to mess around with the paint program on it and draw horrific depictions of like villages on fire and like orcs like chopping people's heads off. And
That's awesome.
I was
That
big into
sounds great,
stuff.
actually.
Yeah, I was like soldiers getting impaled on pikes and stuff. Like, I was really into that, like the gory, like dark fantasy kind of stuff as a kid. But I mean, it wasn't called pixel art then, right? It was just like computer art or something.
Yeah. It's basically everything was pixel back then.
Yeah.
Like 16 colors, probably, right? Or was it?
It was more than that. The computer was a little more, maybe 256 or something. But yeah, paint programs. So like I got used to drawing with a mouse. And then there was this weird game that I can't find anywhere else. Like for the life of me, I've tried to search every now and again for it, but I had a game on my Mac called Super Sprite Fighter 2D or something like that, where the game came with like these characters that were digitized, kind of like Mortal Kombat.
Oh, okay.
But it was all like, these two dudes that made this game, so it was all them, like in different costumes and shit. But what you could do is you could edit the image files, so you could come up with your own characters. Like you could put in your own animations and stuff and come up with a new. So like I made like Goku and stuff, and like Hanzo from Samurai Showdown and like any other weird stuff.
Oh yeah, I love that game.
Yeah, so like I and that was essentially what is pixel art now.
Yeah.
But other than that, like no, like I didn't really have any super solid experience with pixel art up until like Savage kind of forced me to learn all that stuff.
It forced you to learn everything
in a more real way. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so if you guys don't know, he basically does the music, the art, the programming, the debugging, everything, 100%.
For better or worse.
So,
yeah, anything that you see, hear, and feel in that game, I'm responsible for.
So how long have you been working on the game? Because I seen some like older videos of you on your website, and you look younger on that website. Like that just tells you how long you've been working on it.
Yeah, it's been like 5 years of like actual like working on something that I kind of know the end goal for. It was maybe 2010 that I picked up Game Maker, and I knew I wanted to kind of like mess around with a platformer and make some kind of a warrior game, Like I knew I wanted to make some kind of like sword and sorcery themed thing, and I knew I wanted it to be a platformer, but I didn't really know much more than that. And Savage started out as this weird little prototype thing of like a naked buff dude trying to escape a castle, and it was like level based sort of, like there was like like
like a regular
one kind of okay,
one
kind of okay level, and then two like kind of crappy throwaway levels. And it was like you get to the end, you punch a guy in the face, and then you get a key and you escape. And that was like pretty much it. And it controlled like crap. It looked like garbage. But you can still like I still have the prototype sitting around too, which is pretty wild. Like it's a piece of junk now. I can't believe it's almost 10 years old now. But it wasn't till the end of 2013 that I was like, okay, it's gonna be like it's gonna be like Zelda 2. It's going to be like Conan the Barbarian. It's going to have an overworld map, and it's going to have like armor and weapons and like all the stuff that you kind of see now in the game.
So that prototype is in Game Maker as well?
Yeah, that was in Game Maker 6. And since then, they've iterated like 3 or 4 major versions of it to where the old ones don't even work anymore.
So now it's Studio.
Yeah,
okay.
Before Studio, they did one that was called 8.1, which was like almost like the prototype of Studio. And then they did Studio, and now they have Studio 2. I'm still stuck in Studio 1, so I'm in limbo.
Yeah. That's why I was like, you're like, oh, I'm probably going to go to 2, but from my experience, just like using audio software, going from like 1, maybe gaming stuff might be easier, but going from like an older audio software to like a newer one, it's usually a freaking disaster. And that's just audio tracks. I can't even imagine like an entire game moving it over.
Switching engines is even worse, I'd definitely say.
Because I remember I would use like FL Studio like 4, and I was so stubborn, and everyone would tell me, you need to switch. go to like
Mm.
7, 8. And then when I switched,
Oh man, Fruity Loops Studio.
and then when I switched over, yeah, that's when it was called Fruity Loops. Now it's called
Yeah,
FL
yeah.
Studio. And then when I switched over, like some of my songs, they would be like faster and like fast forward, and then like some of the audio would be higher pitched, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And then I was like,
yeah. I remember having that problem too, and I used it when it was still called Fruity Loops Studio, and it was like freaking like 1999 or something, 98.
speaking of that, what audio programs do you use for? Because you have chiptune and guitar and
yeah, my digital audio workstation is Reaper, which is like Pro Tools pretty much. And like I use like a ton of different plugins and a lot of Native Instruments stuff. Like for guitar, I use Guitar Rig. And for chiptunes, there's a whole like handful of them that I found online that are free. Like I'd have to actually like
look them up,
dig around to
yeah,
look
like,
for the names. And
there's
stuff.
a lot of like free like Nintendo VSTs, sounding VSTs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which is what I grabbed, and then any like sort of more lo-fi sounding synthy kind of packages that I can find, and but a lot of the stuff I use is Native Instruments, like the Contact player and all that stuff. And then I used to use a lot of like Waves Diamond Bundle, and
Oh yeah,
which was amazing. Yeah,
they have like the
so that's
stuff,
pretty much my audio setup right now.
And what kind of guitars do you use? Because I never actually hear you talk about like any music part. Like okay, hold on. I'm gonna go off on a different thing. Tobor's got like he's got 2 albums of music.
Oh, geez,
he also
makes call them albums.
Yeah, no, but dude, I enjoyed some of the tracks. Some of them are really good. So they
oh, thanks, dude.
They're like gothic metal typo negative ish. I got a real typo
when I wanted to
them.
be. Yeah, back when I wanted to really be like Billy Corgan meets Peter Steele, like, and I listened to a lot of stuff like The Cure and Sisters of Mercy, and then like metal. So I was big into like goth rock and metal back in the day. I mean, I still am, but it's hard for me to find new stuff. I think I've become like kind of curmudgeon-y like anymore. I'm like, it sucks.
One of those old guys is like, that new music is all trash.
Yeah, it's garbage.
Yeah. No, but yeah, I really enjoyed the music. So you just have those 2 albums, and then that's it.
Yeah, one of them I did with a drum machine and a friend of mine. The really really old one, which is like from freaking 2004 or something. And then the other one we did in 2008, and that's when we had like. There were 3 of us and then another friend helping produce. I used to work in a dehydrated vegetable warehouse where we'd like ship and receive and process, like hand blend a bunch of like jalapeno powder and habanero powder and garlic stuff. But anyway, we at night we were able to use the warehouse as pretty much like a recording studio, which was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
And that second one is where we recorded like pretty much all of that.
Wow, that's awesome.
We'd lug our equipment in at night, and like we used like one of the offices as like the sound booth. Like depending on like where we wanted, what kind of sound we wanted, we'd stick an amp in one of the like the big rooms and like mic it all over the place and stuff. It was fun.
That's hella cool. That's a real do it yourself. We used to jam. Like there was an arcade I used to work at, and we used to jam like in the back room. Well,
oh yeah, you were telling me about the arcade.
Well, we were working. We'd be like, "Oh, it's slow. Let's get the amps out, and we'll be jamming in the back." And we would jam.
Oh, that's
back
rad.
Or
that's cool.
There was one time, like my buddy that I met, that's in my band, like my best friend. I met him from working there, and he would bring his guitar, and he was like really good back then, right? Like in my eyes, because I sucked.
Sure.
Which I mean, he was playing like Metallica stuff, you know. When you're a kid,
oh man, he can tap. He can tap out a solo.
Yeah, you're like, holy crap! So he was jamming one day, sitting there, and we're like just talking or whatever, and all of a sudden the boss walks behind us, and he puts the guitar down, and he's like, and we're like whispering to each other, like, "Oh no!" And then he walks out, and he's like, "Oh, rock on, guys, have a good one." And he left, and I was like, "Did we get in trouble? Is he gonna like?" But nope, we were cool. So
Are we? Yeah.
that's. I was
Did
like,
he like it or did he?
I think like that was like we probably should have got in trouble because that's what after it perpetuated to us playing in the back room.
Yeah. What arcade was this? Was it in Southern California or?
Yeah, California. It's just a small one. It was actually owned by Ocean
Oh, no
Amusements, because my boss, he worked for Ocean and his wife worked for SNK, or vice versa. I think he worked for SNK and she worked for Ocean.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So we had a lot of like
SNK was the shit back in the day.
we had a lot of like preview cards. I don't know if you ever seen those N64 cards. They're like double the size of a regular one, like really long. They put ROMs on them and you play.
Oh wait, no, yeah. Okay,
you can like
I know what you're talking about.
You basically, it's like the betas, and he would bring them and we'd be playing them.
Like taller, kind of.
Yeah, they're really tall. And we would play I played games like Mission Impossible before they came out, like Fighter's Destiny, Wetrix, pretty much Infogram games. They're not like the best, but it was fun to play a game before it never came out, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and to be able to have access to those prototype cards. Like I know people now, like even if the game was like pure trash, like people would, pay an arm and a leg.
Oh yeah, no, you know what's funny?
To get one of those things.
Is I was searching on eBay for like that kind of stuff, and I found one with his wife's name on it, and it says "Return to what so and so," and I was like, "What?"
I by care of his wife's name or whatever.
Yeah, because I looked them up, and I'm like, "Oh, I gotta find him." And I found his email. He works at like some car dealership now or something. And I emailed him, and I was like, "Hey, look at what never got returned to your wife." And he's like, and then he emailed me back, and he's like, "Holy crap!" He's like, "She's in trouble when I get home," or something like that.
That's
like jokingly.
Funny.
But what are the odds of that, And it was going for like $6,000, dude.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Like almost well, I guess not quite a stadium events or something.
But I don't even remember what game it was, honestly. It was not anything great. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I had some similar stuff because my stepdad owned and operated an exhibiting business. So he would get clients that would go to E3 and stuff. So and he would build exhibits for like sometimes for games that never came out. And I'm only thinking of this now because you brought up the 64 cards. There was a 64 game called Freak Boy that never came out, but like they got to play so that they could see like the characters and stuff, and so that they could make the exhibit out of it and everything. But and I was kind of excited about it just because it's like, oh, my stepdad's working on this. Like even if the game wasn't like that great.
yeah, no, that when you're a kid, that's awesome. I was so excited to play a lot of these games. Like when we got Samurai Showdown 64, which is not an N64 game, but it's like Hyper Neo Geo 64. It's kind of built off some of the technology. When we had it in arcade,
the 3D one, right?
Yeah, when we had it in arcade, it was one of the only ones. It was the only one in the United States, and the other one was in Japan when we played it at the time.
It's like one of two in the whole world.
Yeah, at the time. I mean, there's
the arcade business used to be so crazy.
Yeah, it really was, especially in the 90s, and then now it's like dead.
Right. Yeah. Now it's basically mobile and microtransactions
and ticket games.
Yeah.
Arcade is ticket games.
If you actually go to an arcade, then it's like whack-a-mole and skee ball and stuff. That stuff like stayed. That stuff didn't die.
Yeah, the ticket games, that's what makes the money now. That's why you can get a parachute guy for $20.
yeah.
After it's all said and done.
Mm-hmm. Like a sticky hand or something.
That gets full of dirt after 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This took me 5 hours to get.
Let's play with it for like 10 minutes, and then it's all dirty and it doesn't work anymore.
There's a film around it.
That's great. I think we got sidetracked from the guitar talk there.
Oh yeah. So what I typically, what I was using was a Mexican Fender Strat for a long time.
Those are pretty good, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, solid guitar. And I replaced a couple of the pickups with And this was like years ago though, so I can't remember exactly what's in them. But yeah, 2 different pickups, like a bridge pickup and the mid pickup I replaced. But I was getting a lot of interference on it. Probably due to my awful soldering job at the time with the pickups. And I recently just got a new oh man, what is it? A Jackson. Here, one sec. Let me
Okay.
I got a Jackson. And I'm terrible. I can't remember exactly what the what model it is or anything, but it's not too expensive or anything, but it sounds awesome. And I needed something that wouldn't make freaking noise.
Oh, because the Fender has the single coil pickup.
Yeah, so I was getting a lot of like,
humming.
and because I do most everything digital, like I'm not micing an amp or anything anymore,
Mm-hmm.
But I got that, and I got an Ibanez bass as well, because I like laying down actual bass tracks.
Those are really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Even the low end ones, they're really good.
Yeah, this one too. Like it wasn't very much money, and it's smaller scale. Like it's not the fret or the neck isn't as big. Jackson JS22 is the guitar I got, and then an Ibanez GSRM 20 MPL, a GSR series bass, I guess.
Okay.
Are the two new monsters that I got.
Does that have a bridge on it? Does that have a bridge, or is it of course it has a bridge, but okay. No whammy. Does it have a whammy? Whammy bar? Can you on that?
Oh wait, it does have, it didn't come with one, I don't think, but it does have a socket for one.
Just in case you want to get crazy.
Yeah, in case I want to bust out some dime bag stuff.
You can make some custom jumping sound effects with that.
Oh, there's an idea. Yeah.
Just like dude, honestly though, you could probably like load up Guitar Rig and put it like on the most whack setting and like get some
something
crazy
that's meant
sounds
for like vocals or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You get like cartoon voices with the pitch shifter. I remember one time we did that because we would record vocals through Amplitude. And we were going through the settings, and then one of the settings was a pitch shifter. And then all of a sudden, like everyone in the room sounded like chipmunks, and we all had headphones on. And we were busting up, and then we would hear ourselves laugh through the microphone, and we all sounded like chipmunks while we were laughing. That was the most funniest thing ever, man. But like, yeah, you could do like
and it kept
voice
going.
Stuff like
you
that.
Couldn't make it. Yeah.
It was just so funny. And then my buddy has like a really deep voice. He was in the bathroom. He comes in, and when he sees us in tears, and he's like, "What's going on in here? Like, why are we all laughing with the headset on?" And his voice.
What's the matter, you guys?
Yeah. And then he puts his headset on. He's like, "Oh," and he starts laughing. And it's funny because his voice is so deep that we sound like chipmunks, but he sounds like a little kid. So that
he sounded like almost normal.
Yeah, he almost sounds normal. So that was pretty funny.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I had never considered trying to use my guitar for like sound effect design.
Yeah, That'd you could probably get a lot of stuff out of it. I always trying to figure out like to get different sounds because I get bored playing the same stuff over and over. So I'm like, how can I do this or that? Or I always try to find like those weird obscure guitar players that just do like the most whack stuff on their guitar.
What do you play with?
I use a Schecter Avenger 7-string. It's like a 2000 model.
I haven't played on many Schecters, but the ones I have been really nice.
Yeah, they're really nice. Like even the low end ones, you get like the $200 one. Dude, it plays like a dream. The action is really low, so it's like smooth like butter.
Yeah, it feels like it wants you to go fast.
Yeah. The only thing is usually the pickups don't sound very good. But
okay.
Other than that.
The ones on this are pretty amazing. They can get really hot though. Like I was surprised at like the power behind it because I was used to my like dinky like Strat sound.
Mm-hmm.
And just the bad pickup job I did. So that the pickups didn't probably have a whole lot of power behind it. But I plugged this thing in and it was like, holy crap. Like, and it's clear too. It's like strong and clear.
Oh,
I actually have to like turn it down like a little bit on using the actual knobs. Like I have to turn the pickups down a little on the guitar itself.
wow. That's cool. You know what brand they are?
I don't know. I mean, they're stock. So whatever came on this
Doesn't
thing.
require a battery, does it?
No.
Okay. So they're not active.
Not as far as I can tell.
That's pretty good for
just plug it in
passive.
and play.
That's awesome for passive.
Mm.
So on your website, I see that you have like a comic book. Restarted to do a comic book.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I had tried to do comics for a long time too. Mostly just failing to, finish anything. I had a couple friends who like we'd have ideas and then I wound up drawing like the whole thing. Or at least as far as we got with it. One of them was basically a ripoff of The Crow. It was called like Dead Man or something like that. And I actually made like a whole ash can sort of thing, which is like a sampler, like of what your comic would be. And like I took that to a Comic-Con one year, and like me and the other dude like handed him out and stuff. We actually gave one to Ernie Hudson. So Ernie Hudson is running around with a Dead Man like ash can like preview thing somewhere. But he's a really cool guy too.
How was the response
like
when you were handing them out?
Like I think people are just sort of like, oh, okay. It's a comic, all right. Like it wasn't like the greatest thing ever or anything, which is understandable. But and then later on I tried to do a couple web comics. One was like a sci-fi action adventure sci-fi thing, and then the other one was basically like a gag strip, like a kind of a like a strip a day sort of thing, like Calvin and Hobbes.
Oh yeah.
Which is the one that's on the website.
The funnies.
Exactly. Yeah. Little slice of life, like goofy thing. Like basically, I wanted to be Penny Arcade, pretty much.
That's cool. So you have the comic book?
All my stuff is just a series of like rip-offs of other people's stuff, whether it's music or comics or. Now I'm ripping off Zelda 2.
So you also well, I don't want to say tried, but I also saw that you had a podcast on there as well. Are you still doing that?
Not in a while. Like that's something I kind of want to get back to. What happens is I I set up all these like wacky projects for myself, and then like what generally happens is like I always just kind of come back around to like plowing through the game.
Go back through it, yeah.
Like depending on like how much the other stuff starts to take out of me, I'm like, well, I should probably just focus on the game. But yeah, every once in a while when I'm feeling when I'm feeling saucy, like I'll do another podcast or whatever. I was doing one that like almost every day called Madness AM, and then I was doing one with my buddy Tim, which was more game development centric, and that was that was interesting because he's an interesting guy. He's been working on games for a long time. He was the art designer. For example, he was the art lead on Planescape Torment, Fallout 2, and then he went on to Obsidian, and then Vigil Games, where he was a lead on Darksiders 1 and 2. So he's been doing this for a long time. So he's got a lot of really interesting stories.
Wow, that's awesome. I got to listen to that. So that's what your podcast is in, just that, or
the Big Giant Head one? Yeah,
okay.
The most recent thing was me and him, and we haven't done one in months.
That sounds cool. I want to.
I'd like to get back to that.
How many episodes is it so far?
Somewhere like 10 or 13 or something. We were doing one like every other Wednesday, so like 2 a month.
That's pretty good then.
And he's a funny guy too, so he's very animated.
So, and that's the only one you done, or have you done other ones? Because I thought I saw one like of you talking about your game development, but maybe that was just the one you were in.
Yeah, I did one before that too called Madness AM, where it was just a very short one. It was like maybe it would run anywhere from like 15 minutes to half an hour. And I do that like every morning where it was like, okay, this is the kind of stuff that I want to do today. And this is what I did yesterday. And it was more of just like a sort of like a work, like, reaffirming sort of thing.
Yeah,
like hold myself accountable.
So you don't get sidetracked. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this.
And in case anyone wanted to hear me like rave like a lunatic about it, like they could. And then before that too, like I did a podcast with a few guys when I was starting Planet Tobor, and this was in like 2010. And it was like I was kind of messing around with like some game development stuff, which would become Savage later on. And like I was decided to do a web comic, and I like wanted to talk about like video games and shit like that. And this was before like Twitch and stuff, and it was like, let's just start a website where we can talk about all this,
yeah,
all this nonsense. It was me and 3 other guys, and we had a podcast, and then yeah, we just kind of like, we all kind of went different ways and did other things and stuff, and I just held on to Planet Tobor, and it eventually turned into more just like, okay, this is my little weird studio where I'm working on my game. And
so Planet Tobor started off as like a site just to talk about stuff, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I always thought Tobor was kind of a funny name because it's like an old sci-fi like robot name.
Yeah, because it's
like
a robot.
Tobor
backwards.
the Great, and like there's some toys called Tobor and like some other characters and stuff. And like my friend used to work at Blockbuster, so we'd always hang out there and like rent movies and stuff. And he just made a Tobor joke one day, and I was like, oh, that sounds cool. So I started to like name all my like electronics that like how you can like name your computer on the network.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like, this is ToborPrime. Like was the like my desktop PC, and it just kind of stuck.
That's awesome. I like that. That's what I was gonna ask you. Is like, where did the name come from?
But, yeah, it came from my friend Ed, who worked at Blockbuster.
That's cool.
Who at one time made a Tobor joke, and I was like, oh, Tobor is a cool name. Like it sounds like a weird old robot.
So when you so this game was actually put on what you call it? You did like not a fundraiser. What's it called? Kickstarter. That's what it is. So when did you decide to do that, and what made you decide to do that?
So in 2013, it's like mid 2013 or like summer or fall or something like that. I had a prototype of Savage. It's very ugly. Like regardless of what anybody thinks of like how the game looks and feels now, like this was even worse. But it still had like the sort of the pillars of Savage. It had the like the combat feel was there, and like some of the leveling up, and a little bit of the gear progression, and the overworld map, like those, and like just general atmosphere stuff was in there. And I started to show people. I met Indy on Twitch. Are you familiar with Indy at all?
Yeah, I'm not familiar, but I remember seeing the name in chats and whatnot. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he's like a big bearded guy with like a mohawk. And he I found his channel. His channel was one of the first channels I found on Twitch. And I just I was kind of chatting in his chat room and stuff and watching him, and I was like, hey, do you play I mean, your name's Indy, like do you play smaller games than I think he was playing like an independently developed game on stream, and I was like, you play smaller stuff? And he's like, yeah, I'll play anything. And then he asked me about my game and stuff when I brought it up, and then I showed it to him, and he's like, oh dude, this is cool. And then his chat got excited about it and stuff, and then they kept asking me if there was a Kickstarter for it. And then like friends I showed too, they're like, oh, you should do a Kickstarter. And it was when enough people asked me that I was like, maybe I should do a Kickstarter. So I did a Kickstarter.
Yeah, that's usually how. That's from my experience. That's usually what I go by, because like I'll be like, nah, that ain't gonna work. But then when you have so many people asking you about it, you're like, okay, maybe I should start doing this.
Yeah, it's like, okay, maybe it can work then if there's enough interest, at least like within your circle of like people. Like, but yeah, the Kickstarter was small. Like it was, and this was after. My wife and I had just moved to Austin, Texas, and then like maybe a year and a half later, our apartment burned down.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that too.
Yeah, that's where I lost my guitar amps and stuff, and all my effects pedals, and all my old video game stuff too. Like I had a pristine like complete in-box Odyssey 2 and like a bunch of games for it and stuff, and a bunch of complete in-box Super Nintendo stuff. And anyway, though, yeah, the apartment burned down.
You're making me depressed now.
Hey, but you know what? It was the easiest move I ever did after that.
Because you don't have anything to move,
yeah. It's like, I just have brought up a bag with like some, toothbrush and toothpaste. Like, this is kind of nice, actually. I'm not throwing my back out, like trying to lug a couch upstairs or something. But we moved into a really small studio apartment, which was really cheap. And for a long time we didn't have a bed either. We had a blow up mattress, which like started to deflate.
Yeah, those things only last like a week tops.
Yeah.
Brand new, it don't matter. It's gonna deflate after like a week. And you gotta always pump it up, and it just gets worse and worse, and eventually it just doesn't hold air anymore.
Yeah, that's what we learned. So we were kind of miserable there for a little while. But I did a Kickstarter, and I based the goal of the Kickstarter around what I thought would sort of carry us through like a year and a half of living in that spot. The rent was super cheap because it was a studio. It was this little tiny thing with like a bathroom.
Or everything's in one room, right?
To keep. What's that?
Or everything's in one room, like the bathroom, the sink, and all that.
Yeah, I mean there was a door separating the toilet and shower and sink and stuff, but essentially it was just one room, and then with like a kitchen section. But I based the Kickstarter goal on that at $6,000, and it made 8,000 eventually.
Wow, that's really good.
What it wound up with. But then in reality, it was still 6,000 because of like chargebacks and people's credit cards not going through.
Oh, wow. That's kind of something you don't really think about when you...
No, and that's when you look at a Kickstarter too, and you see how much it made, it doesn't show you like that stuff. It just shows you what the total was at the time of the campaign's end. It doesn't show you how much actually made it through.
Yeah, no, that's not. I never even thought about that, because like everything has its fees and all that kind of stuff, but the chargeback.
Yeah, there were Kickstarter fees too, but then people's like pledges just straight up not going through, or their credit cards like expired, over the course of the 30 days, and they never bothered to go back and fix it or whatever. So yeah, that there was that, and then because in my ignorance. And being naive and everything, I figured like, Savage should only. This was 2014. I was like, Savage should be out by 2015. And here we are at the end of 2018, and the game's not freaking done yet. But
hey, it's a one man thing. I mean, it's really ambitious.
Yeah,
it's really
obnoxiously
ambitious.
so.
Because you didn't basically you didn't know anything, right? You've never done pixel art. You've done music, but like doing music
I did
for
music
a game,
and film,
and then doing like programming, and then just all that stuff to be like, this is my first project, and like but it's amazing like how good it is. Not to be like, it should be crap, but I'm just like to start because I've started a lot of stuff where I'd be like, let me do this or let me do that, and then you start getting into the realization of how much work it is, or then you're just like, oh man, this is way over my head.
Yeah,
I'm sure you felt that way too. I'm sure you felt that way at some points, right?
Yeah, it's so easy to have that vision of a thing. And I've done this countless times, like we've been kind of talking about the the list of failures that I have behind me. You know, like with like web comics and comics and whatever else. And like I tried film for a little while and stuff. I mean, I completed like short films and everything and did stuff with other people. But like my own projects, like I'd start up like, oh, I'm gonna do like an animated like, thing, and I'm gonna like have a series, and then like you start drawing it and it's like, oh my God. Like I'm gonna die before this is ever done. But yeah, like having like coming from film and music and stuff and other things where I worked with a lot of people and like ran into like a lot of either drama or like people just not wanting to do it anymore, or
that's another thing.
Or people stealing ideas too. Like there's that, especially in LA, which is where I lived for a little while, trying to do all that stuff. Speaking of which, I've got a kind of a funny John Cusack story, but which is why I wanted to do a game, which was like, okay, like I play a lot of games. I love games. Like I've always wanted to make a game. Let me do something that nobody else can touch,
That's awesome. So what's your John Cusack story?
What's that?
What's your John Cusack story?
Oh, so I was making movies with a buddy of mine, and we had our own little like sort of production company, and we did like little side gigs here and there too. But we were working on a pretty ambitious short film called The Finger, about a dude that gets his finger cut off in like the spokes of a bike wheel, and the finger like bounces around and stuff, and it keeps winding up in like these weird different places, and he's got to like find it and like hunt it down.
And a bowl of chili.
Yeah, that's like stuff like that. Like some bums pick it up at one point and like start playing with it, and like it winds up somewhere else, and like it gets knocked out of their hands and like winds up in a diner and like all this stuff. So we had like all these crazy, like it's basically like Tom and Jerry sort of like with this guy trying to chase his finger. And it was all like it was like punk rock and shit, and like we thought we were so rad, and like it was like bloody and stuff and like goofy and like it really dumb jokes, but a lot of kind of characters and like very quick moving and a lot of speaking parts, and sets, like a lot of locations and stuff, and on that one too I did all the music and stuff, and I'm the guy that loses his finger, and for that whole period I had a mohawk, and I used Elmer's glue. It was like a Liberty Spike mohawk. So it's like this big obnoxious thing. And like for like, months I was driving around LA with like half of my head so I wouldn't mess up the stupid thing on my head. But anyway, sorry, I'm kind of getting off track here.
No,
but,
it's fine.
We made the movie, and somehow like his mom, my friend's mom, wound up showing it to John Cusack or so, and apparently he liked it a whole lot, and he was like, I'm going to show all my friends and like all this stuff. And he started emailing my friend back and forth, like telling him about how he liked the movie and like, and all this stuff. And now it is important that I never spoke with him.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the stuff I was hearing from my friend,
but you don't know if it's true, basically.
So yeah, who knows? Like I never met him. I never, my friend swore that he was like emailing him and stuff. And but here's the thing, like shortly after that, like and I moved out of LA and stuff, and like I like people like owed me money and shit, and like for work, and never paid and all this stuff, and I couldn't make rent at that point, so it just like the lease on my apartment was up, and I was living with like a guy who also owed me money, like rent money and stuff. And it's just it's pretty like typical LA.
It sounds like city life, yeah.
Yeah. So I moved back,
especially when you're young.
Yeah, like I moved back home to save some money. Like I moved back in with my mom and my stepdad, and I get a job at an old movie theater that I used to work at, and I'm cleaning the theater. Right, like I'm cleaning like a popcorn spill or something, or like somebody threw up or something. In this particular case, I was cleaning some popcorn, I think, like at the back of the movie theater, and their hot tub time machine was out in the theater at that point, and that's a John Cusack movie, and it's his production company. And there are scenes in there that are almost shot for shot of the finger.
Oh man.
Like there's a part in the finger where there's like and it's nothing like too original or anything. Like even ours was pretty derivative, but like where there's like a guy, like, you know, this couple having sex, and like the chick is all bored and shit, and like, and there's a scene in fucking Hot Tub Time Machine that's exactly like that. Like the joke is the same, and like the angles are kind of similar, and then there's a character in Hot Tub Time Machine that loses his arm on a bike that goes by, or like a motorcycle,
which would be like the finger.
Yes, very similar to how the our character loses his finger, and like, and there's like a weird little vignette sequence with that where he's got to get it, and he puts it on ice and stuff, and he like gets it reattached and stuff, and it's almost like our movie like condensed into this weird little like aside in the Hot Tub Time Machine. And I'm like cleaning the theater, I'm watching it, I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah,
that's the finger up there.
Does that,
and it could be coincidence, I don't know, who knows.
Does that movie exist? Is it like, can it be viewed somewhere? Your guys' movie?
The finger? I don't know if it's online, because when we were making it, some of the actors in the movie were Screen Actors Guild, and we had to sign a bunch of contracts that were we can't, you're not allowed to show this online. And this was in 2008, 2009, when, it was like it was like a brave new frontier pretty much to like, show movies digitally, and all that. So a bunch of people had these weird things in their contracts to keep up with their Screen Actors Guild stuff.
Oh,
like, yeah, we're not gonna whore ourselves out to like, a bunch of weird, online YouTube
services.
Things.
And,
so at the time we couldn't post it. I wonder if a lot of that stuff is expired. I haven't talked to that guy in a while, but there is a trailer for it online that I can link you to if you want, if you're curious. If you can see like a little bit of what the hell it was about.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'll send that to me, and then I'll put it in the YouTube description, or wherever this ends up. We'll put it in the description.
Yeah, it's really hard to find. Like even just doing a little search that I just did on YouTube for it, like it's not coming up. So it's old, but I'm pretty sure it's on there somewhere. At the very least, the trailer is.
So what years did you film this? You said 2000.
Yeah, it was between 2007 and 2009. Like we had to take breaks.
Okay, and then Savage started what year?
What's that?
Savage started what year?
Oh geez, like 2010, 2011.
Okay, so
when it wasn't even like Savage yet. It was like, but like Savage, the Shard of Gosen was like 2013. That was like, okay, this is when I know it's going to have like these elements for sure in the game, and this is going forward, this is what I'm going to make. So that was 2013, like mid to end 2013. And then the Kickstarter was 2014. And that's, since then, I've been working on it full time.
So was Kickstarter new when you did your Kickstarter, or was it still around for a while? Because I'm trying to remember when Kickstarter started.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I know that there were other games that were being kickstarted at the time. So it had been around for at least a couple years, I think. But video games on Kickstarter, like, were still kind of new, I think.
Oh, it says it launched in 2009. 2009.
Okay.
So you were on it in 15, you said?
No. 2014.
14?
Yeah.
That's not too long after.
So like February is when the campaign was.
Because I'm just curious, like, because there's a lot of like Kickstarter stuff that just like people getting like screwed over or whatever, you know what I mean? So I'm wondering if someone really tries to do that now, would they have the same success? I wonder.
I mean, I think that there was probably a bubble for games and indie games, and that was like, a little bit sort of hot off the heels of like Indie Game the movie and stuff like Super Meat Boy, Braid, Fez.
Yeah, I remember watching that movie. Indie Game the movie.
So like that was when, like, if you were making an indie game, people paid attention. And now it's like people realize like, oh, an indie game is just a fucking video game.
Like everyone's doing it now. Like,
yeah,
you're gonna like everyone makes a mixtape now, a rapper, auto-tune.
Yeah, it's way less kind of trendy than it was then. I think then it was like, oh my gosh, this is like every indie game that comes out is, it's got to be a hit. you know.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people making a lot of game. Like I get a lot of emails just from people being like, "Oh, hey, check out my game. This is the, and it's getting as long as I go on streaming, it gets more and more and more and more. Like literally, probably like 1 or 2 games a week. My email has like some game that someone's trying to show me.
No kidding. Okay, yeah, that's an interesting perspective because, yeah, I obviously don't get any of that stuff. Because I mean, and then if people come to my stream, it's obviously like, oh, this guy's like working on a video game, so he doesn't really play games. Yeah, what the hell is that like? Like, are you just buried in like?
Well, the thing is,
requests and stuff.
A lot of the times is they don't like if they came in the chat. Okay, let me just say how I met Tobor. So Tobor, we met through Mr. R Knight, who's a Twitch streamer. He does a lot of retro stuff. He did speedrunning.
Knight.
And he came in my stream and he hosted me one time. And he said, "Oh, I got a friend who's got a game that you'd probably be into." And so then Tobor was in the chat and he's like, "Oh, yeah, I have this game," and we were talking about it. And I was like, "Sure, let's check it out." If Mr. Knight says it's cool, and then he sent me a key. I played it. We streamed it. We've streamed it twice. And it's really good. It's a really good game. But that's the thing is like, someone just sends you a generic email and the game is just kind of looks so, then you're like, there's no, like, I'm not motivated to stream it. You know what I mean? Because, it, like, for one, it's got to be entertaining to play. And if it's not, then, who's going to want to watch me play a game that they never heard of? That's like the main thing, A lot of people don't want to see. It's like trying to show someone some new music. You know what I mean? Like trying to show someone music they never heard of. It's like impossible. They just don't want to listen to it.
Hey, check out my demo.
Yeah, they don't want to hear it. They don't care. No. You know what I'm saying? So that's the same. Yeah. I feel like it's the same thing for games too. Like people come in, they're going to want to see a game that they've heard of. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's that way no matter what you're doing, like independent film, or if you're a painter or an artist or whatever, it's like, look at my painting. And then you wind up just kind of it becomes very incestuous with the community that you're in. A lot of this stuff is what I've learned. So for example, like doing webcomics, when nobody has heard about your webcomic, nobody wants to look at it. And the only people that want to look at it are other people trying to get other people to look at their webcomic.
Yeah. It's like the like for a like or follow for a follow.
Yeah. It's like a version of that. Like, and that's with music and everything. Like any community that I've noticed, like when I used to gig around all the time, like when we play gigs, like there was a period where we were always playing with like 1 or 2 other of the same bands at the same spots.
Yeah.
And it was like we were each other's audience.
Oh, yeah.
And then like a couple people at the bar or something,
Yeah,
so it's tricky to like break out of that weirdness.
I think if you just keep doing it, but that's my point with like the thing is like, if they actually came into a chat and be like, "Hey, I have a game. I'm a game developer." Maybe people are scared to do that and think, "Oh, they're going to get cussed out by the streamer." Like, why are you in here advertising?
Maybe, yeah.
Because or like reach out on Twitter, because the emails are really generic. They're just like, you can tell they just send them to like everyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and when you're going through your emails, they all kind of feel the same, and it all feels like work. So
yeah.
Really
so I would
be too excited about
like
it.
if someone emailed and be like, "Oh, hey, I have this cool game. I've checked out your stream. I think you might like it." I think I would be like, "Oh, okay, let me check it out. Let me talk to you." But when it's just something really generic, it's like, oh, okay, never mind. Like I'll look at them, but a lot of the time they don't really catch my interest. But if I feel like the person's really cool, I'll be like, "Hell, let's just play it. Who cares?" You know what I mean? Because I'm always down to play anything.
And that's kind of been my I mean, Twitch is amazing. Twitch has been a godsend for me because like I like using it. That's a plus. It's like when I use it, it's like even if I'm in your stream or someone else's stream, like it could be considered marketing, I guess. But the plus side is like I actually like to be there. Like,
yeah.
I like to watch the games. I like to, for example, if I'm in your stream, I like to talk to you. I like to talk to the people in your chat, like, make jokes, whatever. But like it's been a really natural process for me to sort of build like these relationships and like get to know people, because I'm a fan of like what's happening on the platform,
Yeah, especially the
I dig
retro.
just being around and hanging out and stuff, and then it's like, oh, I'm also working on a video game too. So like,
Especially the
that works
retro,
with all
yeah.
this. Yeah,
The
with
retro
retro and
community is
everything
really
too.
good.
Yeah, they've a lot of them have rallied around the game, which has been pretty exciting.
Yeah, because me being variety, like I basically get like a taste of like everyone's type of community. You know, like I started
Mm,
doing like Fallout and Mario Maker. The Fallout community is pretty cool. Like a lot of the Fallout people are really chill. Mario Maker is it's just a lot of different types of people, and then you got like the retro people are really chill, and
mhm.
then you got like the BR, which is a lot of younger crowd. The BR, you know, like
Yeah,
Fortnite
that's
and
something I know
H1Z1 and
almost
all that.
virtually nothing about other than watching you occasionally play like what's that? Ring of Elysium is one of the newer
Yeah,
ones.
yeah, Ring of Elysium. It's a fun game. That's a battle royale. That's made by the creators who made the PUBG mobile game.
Oh, okay.
So I think I never played PUBG mobile, but I think a lot of the like mechanics they carried over to the PC
Mm,
version. It's not
yeah.
just a reskin though, from what I've seen, but I think they just like, you know, try to make it
Yeah.
a bigger thing than just a mobile game.
Yeah, totally not my kind of game in the slightest. I will say, but I get it. Like I totally understand. It's like this generation's like Unreal Tournament or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that dude, battle royale for me, I just love it. It's kind of
Mm,
like it gets you in that feeling like when you were a kid and you were just so addicted to playing a game again. You know what I mean? Like it just
yeah.
has that feeling.
The last time that I really felt that way about an online game was Rune. I don't know if you ever played Rune.
No, I've never played it.
Rune was a I think it came out in 2000, something like that. And it was made on the Unreal Engine like 1. It was Unreal but it was Vikings. So, you had like complete like first person style controls, but it was third person action. So like, you're using WASD to move around and to aim where you're going to swing your sword or your axe or whatever. All the weapons in the game could be thrown. Like you pick up a broadsword, you could chuck it at somebody. You had shields. You could cut each other's heads off. You could pick up the head and toss it at somebody else.
Oh, okay.
Arms and stuff could be severed. You could pick up the arm and beat somebody with it, and it was a lot of fun.
I remember seeing this box art for Rune. I never played it though.
Oh, it's so good, so good. Still good too. Like it's actually something I kind of want to stream again,
That's something
or at all. I've never streamed it, but I'd like to play it again and stream it.
Yeah, that's something that looks like something I'd like to play. Was that
Yeah, high
only on
skill
PC?
because you could get like one hit kills if you were good. Like if you landed your sword in the right spot on the guy.
Oh, kind of like Chivalry then. Chivalry's like that, I think.
Okay,
Because Chivalry's a one-on-one. They had Bushido Blade as well. Remember that one?
I love I have Bushido Blade sitting on my shelf.
That's kind of like too, right? You get the good hit and
Yeah.
you kill them guy instantly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, think of Bushido Blade, but with like Unreal Tournament controls.
And it's not 1v1, right? You're just fighting a bunch of different guys, or is it 1v1?
Correct. I mean, there's people are able to make maps and stuff and make custom tailored like rules and stuff, but you could have death match where it's just everybody against everybody. You could have team death match. You could have like arena rules where like you all kind of hang out and watch a duel happen, and it's like 1-on-1, and then like when one guy kills a guy, you jump into the arena after him. A lot of that though was like
sounds like
community
fun.
driven. Yeah, a lot of it was community driven where it was like it's up to us to kind of
Like the
keep the
content.
rules
Yeah.
going. Yeah. So like it was pretty cool. Like you could tell when someone was dishonorable if they got their weapon arm cut off, and instead of kneeling and allowing their opponent to take their head, like they'd run around and try to heal or something.
So running around with no arm.
Yeah, like if you healed, like eating a lizard or something, like your arm would grow back so you could fight again. But
That sounds great.
all of us are sitting around watching. It's like that guy has no honor.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, it was cool.
That is awesome. I've played the only game I played with a lot of like community like custom stuff was Killing Floor 1.
Okay, yeah, those looked really neat. I've never played a Killing Floor game though.
Yeah, that has a
Like
lot
2 or
of
3 of them, right?
There's 2.
Okay.
It started as an Unreal mod. They won like the Make Something Unreal like mod contest, and
Okay.
then from there they went on to make a full game out of it. And then from there it went Steam Workshop, and there's like every map you could think of, like do all the Doom maps and stuff. It's a horde based game. A lot of people
Okay.
compare it to like Left 4 Dead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's pretty much the advent of the horde thing, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Or like Vermintide.
Yeah, Vermintide. I've never played Vermintide, but a lot of people say they it's compared to that. I think we may have lost him. Are you still there? We're back.
We live again.
I totally forgot what we were talking about.
Oh geez, yeah.
Talking about Killing Floor, and then that game you were talking about, Rune.
Vermintide, yeah, that's
Vermintide.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, that's
and horde mode games.
Yeah, that's another one that I haven't played, but I really want to. I hear 1 and 2 is really good.
Oh, it's amazing. I recently picked up Vermintide off of a Steam sale, and I was kind of iffy on it because like I'm not too big on multiplayer games.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, when I'm in the mood for like, because when I play, it's so sporadic. You know, it's like it's usually very like on a whim. It's like, you know what, I kind of just want to jump into something and like, you know, cut somebody's head off or something like real quick for 20 minutes or something. And it's like it's kind of nice to be able to just like come and go as I please without having to worry about like
your teammates are gonna die if you're AFK.
Yeah,
or something.
letting somebody down or something. Or but I played a little bit of Vermintide just with bots, and it's held up pretty good. So
yeah, Left 4 Dead is really bad for that. People getting all upset. Bots? No, people getting upset because you didn't.
Oh,
dude, the first time I ever played Left 4 Dead, I literally could not play a game because everyone would vote kick me. They're like, "This guy sucks. Oh, you don't know how to play this guy." Blah blah, and I would just get, and then like cuss at you over the microphone and everything. I'm like, I ain't playing this game anymore.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, you guys realize fucking some people have never played this yet, right?
Yeah, yeah. This is
kick
like
everybody out, your community is not going to grow.
This is before like I started streaming and stuff, so
yeah.
But now I just play with the stream. I'm like, you know what? We're not going to play with these random jackasses. We're just going to play with the community because it's insane. That's a good idea, man.
That's a good idea. Maybe I should play with enjoy some video games with my own chat sometime. Or jump in yours too, like see if you're doing something like that. And
yeah, we're always playing something like that. Overwatch, Fortnite, whatever's multiplayer. Left 4 Dead. We do Left 4 Dead sometimes as well.
I got to get you all in on some Rune action.
Yeah, I'd be down to play that.
Start up a Rune clan.
Is it still going? Do people actually still play it, or is it not?
The community is small but mighty, I think. They recently like it was either a year or two ago, they re-released what's called Rune Classic, and that's basically an updated version of it.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, I see people streaming that. I didn't know it was that game.
No kidding.
Yeah,
I haven't done enough digging on it to see if like the community's thriving at all or not, but I do know that some people play it because like the old forums that I used to go to, like there's still people posting on there every now and then.
Oh yeah, I'll get hosts from people playing that. So
crazy.
I just always thought it was RuneScape.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people think when I bring up Rune, but it's,
because
Rune is different.
So when I see Rune Classic, I just think they're playing like old school RuneScape or something, like a different version.
Rune had a pretty robust like single player game, like a whole like story and like Tomb Raider or something,
Mm-hmm.
Like an action adventure side to it. And then it had the multiplayer that was like its own thing.
It reminds the box art kind of looks like Unreal Tournament. Well, it's Unreal Engine, but like Unreal Gold. You remember Unreal Gold before it was multiplayer? It was like a single player game.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. I had it. Yeah.
And it came out like a year after Half-Life or a year before, or maybe a couple of months. I remember they were like competing at the time to be like the top.
Yeah, the first Half-Life, right?
Yeah, very first one. Yeah.
There was and like Quake 3, I think was around then too.
Yeah, I feel like Unreal, the single player Unreal, got overshadowed by Half-Life. It's not really meant. A lot of people always say Unreal Tournament, but Unreal had a really good single player
Oh, it was awesome. Like the beginning when you're in the like crashed ship. And
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're trying to get out and you hear people screaming and stuff, and you
it's
keep running into like severed arms and things.
Yeah,
It's really
dude,
awesome.
the whole game and the music on that game is amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's such a good soundtrack.
Yeah, the general like vibe and atmosphere of the whole game was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was tough too. Like once you started running into those like warrior alien things.
Oh yeah,
That's when
it gets
that's when
really
stuff started to
tough.
get real difficult.
I feel like Turok was inspired by that game. I don't know if it is.
I can see that.
But
yeah,
I
they
get,
had some similarities.
when I played like Turok, the first one, the N64 Turok. Well, it's on PC too, but
Sure.
I just
still like that game.
I get that Unreal vibe.
Turok.
Dude, it's good. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's just the platforming on that game is insane.
The platforming is kind of it's very satisfying when you figure it out though. Like it's like, okay, I just have to look down all the time and I'll have to
Yeah, you do. You seriously have to look at your feet and you jump.
Yeah.
And then you can make there's so much platforming. I'm like, this is a 3D game. You're gonna put all this platform.
Yeah.
This is not
there
Mario.
are sequences where you're like hopping on these little tiny like stone columns.
Yes,
like,
that's the part I have in my head when I'm thinking about looking at my feet. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. And trying not to like slip off the side because like some of the controls were a little slippery.
Maybe you have that jacked up analog stick that's super loose and you can't go forward all the way. You like can't even make the jump properly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. God, that thing.
I never really had an analog stick that bad, but I always remember my friends always having like the most jacked up analog stick. I'd be like, what do you guys do to this thing?
Me too. Like, what the hell are you doing to this fucking thing?
Yeah, like I'd play Mario Party and it still wouldn't get that fucked up. Like there.
Yeah. Like it's almost coming off like of the the stick itself is like worn so it bends and stuff.
Yeah, no, for real stuff. Yeah, you always had that
friend. Are you using this to grind wheat? What are you doing?
Oh shit! Oh, that's great. Good times. I always wondered, like, if they made like another console, but with N64 controls, like, what kind of innovations they would still have.
Oh, I hope they don't do that.
You don't like it? You don't like that controller?
I mean, I got used to it. I'll say, I got used to it. But then if you go back to it, it's like, oh man, this thing didn't age too well.
Yeah, it is pretty rough. It hurts your hands too.
But I think a lot of that too is just kind of the cheapness of it. Like it feels real, almost like a Fisher Price, you know?
Yeah, like if they updated it and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah,
I always liked it. I always liked the controller. Like.
Once I got the hang of it, I liked it, but then moving on to like an Xbox 360 controller or something like that, it's like, oh, okay. But yeah, I think about that sometimes too. I'm like, I wonder like if we can get our brains like to divorce the idea of the standard video game controller nowadays, like which is basically 360 and PlayStation, and like I wonder what the next permutation of that would be.
Yeah, because Nintendo tries to do that. Well, they try to with the Wii, really.
Yeah, it's almost like they're getting away from innovating as far as like button layout goes, and instead it's like, what can I do with my hands?
yeah, because the old consoles, it was always about like the controller, like adding more buttons. Like I remember
where they put the buttons and where they put the movement part and where they
I remember when I was a little kid. And I had the choice between getting a Sega and a Super Nintendo. And I actually didn't get a Super Nintendo because I was like, why is there so many buttons on this controller? Who needs all these damn buttons? This is ridiculous. This is dumb. I'm going to get a Sega.
What could you possibly do with all these buttons? Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, what the heck? And
that's true. Coming from like NES.
Yeah.
Or even like freaking Atari or something. And then jumping up to Super Nintendo, it's like, it felt like quantum... like a quantum leap.
Because I was like, I started with Nintendo, right? So the next is Super Nintendo or Sega, and you go from 2 buttons to what? How many buttons are on the Super Nintendo? Like 6?
Yeah.
So
plus the start and select, and and then Sega just had the the 3 face buttons, and that's it, A, B, and C.
But the Sega controller breaks a lot too, though.
Does it?
Yeah, I've always had trouble with it when I was a kid.
I guess the D-pad is pretty mushy on that thing.
Yeah,
So
and
I could see somebody really pounding into it, and then it. Yeah, now that you mention it, I seem to remember some friends. I didn't have a Genesis growing up,
oh,
but some
okay.
friends had some D-pads that were like they sat in it weird. It was like you could tell they used like
The
the
right
right side
more
more than the left
left side.
direction, and like
Yeah. Yeah, I would always take them apart as a kid and like clean the pads with alcohol and then put it back in. I always
that's
remember having
smart.
to do that all the time because the contacts would always be all messed up.
Mm.
And it would work for a little while, then, you know.
Just like the sticky hand, it would get dirty and,
Yeah.
and not work.
Yeah. That's the sticky hand.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so let's I want to talk about like your first game console or the first game that you could remember even playing.
What's funny about this is my mom tweeted this to me like a few months ago, and I can't remember what it was called. Like I'm tempted to go over and like look it up on Twitter, but it was this. I think it was on an Apple II, and I used to go to my mom used to take me to. This is when I was really little, like 4 or something, 3 and 4 maybe. It was in Arizona, and my aunt had a practice where she did like ear stuff, like she did hearing aids and that sort of stuff for people and general ear wellness. I can't remember what that's called, but she had a computer in there, and it was an Apple II or something. It was like green graphics.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
It was like black and green, and there was a maze game on there where you could pick like a bunny or an elf or whatever, and you just go through a maze. Like, so we'd like in the mornings we'd like stop at McDonald's and I'd get a cheese Danish, and then I'd go to my aunt's place and I just play the freaking maze game all the time. And that's the earliest video game anything I can remember. That maze game I think might compete with playing Ghosts and Goblins Arcade.
Oh,
and Circus Charlie Arcade. So it's like one of those 3 games was, as far as I remember, at least the first video game thing that stuck with me.
I don't think I've ever heard of Circus Charlie.
Yeah, Circus Charlie was weird, and it was a 2D platformer, but it the different stages all had different rules. Like, in one you're like jumping through like flaming hoops or something. In another one, you're trying to do like a trapeze act, and then in another one, you're like tightrope walking and stuff. And
I remember there was a similar game kind of like that on Atari called Circus. It seemed sounds
okay.
like that,
Yeah, I think I know what game you're talking about.
Circus.
And I also know Circus Charlie got ported.
Yeah, it says here Commodore 64, MSX, Sega SG-1000, ColecoVision, and NES.
Yeah.
And it's made by Konami. 1984.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
1984.
Konami. And the and at some point too, I remember playing the Castlevania Arcade game, which was called like Devil's Haunted Castle or something like that.
Really?
Yeah, which actually like.
Now you're schooling me. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, that's a very ugly game.
You know what?
Hideous.
Some of the NES ports are pretty bad, like arcade versions. Like Contra. You ever play the Contra Arcade?
I actually prefer the NES to the Contra Arcade. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. The arcade versions, like, there's a lot of arcade versions that look butt ugly. Like, you go back to them, it's like, ew. They have more colors and stuff, but they look gross.
Yeah, and they don't play very good either. Like the Contra Arcade,
they play worse.
It plays bad. Another one that some people prefer this, but honestly, I like Punch Out on NES more than I do the arcade.
Okay, I don't know that I ever played the arcade Punch Out.
That's kind of another one.
Double Dragon too. I remember not liking the Double Dragon.
Oh yeah. Double Dragon as well.
Yeah.
The Punch Out plays like the Super Nintendo one.
Okay.
Yeah, Punch
like
Out,
Rygar and stuff
Double
too.
Dragon.
Like I like the NES Rygar better than the arcade one.
That's kind of weird. Like I guess the arcade ones are probably more rushed, huh? Or different devs or something?
Absolutely, yeah. And then when they, but I think too, like the conceit for porting an NES game or NES games in general, it's like, okay, you own this game now, so it's like it kind of has to carry its like dollar amount, so it's like it has to have more in it,
better, yeah.
like a reason for you to keep playing for a while, either whether that was like difficulty or like with Rygar where it was like, hey, let's just add like a top-down overworld map thing.
Yeah, just slap it in there.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it becomes like a weird adventure game instead of just a perpetually like scrolling, left to right action game.
A lot of the DOS ports are pretty bad too.
Yes. Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind is Mega Man.
Oh god, that's atrocious.
Yeah,
it's really bad. That's really bad. You know what too is a lot of games, like early PC games, they were made by like one person. They're like also very young when they made them. I've seen people like in YouTube comments be like, "Oh yeah, I'm so and so. I worked on this game when I was like 16." These companies hiring like huge companies hiring these kids, and they just
it makes sense why they're bad.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's funny too. Like you play a lot of you play some that actually cost money now, and then other like indie game kind of free games.
Oh yeah.
They're similar to those.
Yeah.
They're usually by like some 14-year-old kid or something that just picked up Game Maker or whatever.
Oh, you're talking about now. You're talking about now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like now, like it's the same sort of stuff. Like you try some of these newer indie games that are free, and usually on like an indie game community website or something. They kind of smack a little bit of like Mega Man on DOS or something. So it's kind of interesting to see how much like has changed, but also how a lot
it's still
hasn't.
The same.
Yeah,
like those games would be on the shareware 1000 game packs that you'd see at Walmart for $5.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I remember getting those a lot.
Like a crappy image of a spaceship on the cover.
Yeah.
And like a tennis guy.
Dude, I used to get those a lot. I would go through every game and find like 2 that were good, and I'd be like, "Yes, I found the 2 best games in here."
And that was like on DOS or something.
Yeah, they'd be on DOS or like Windows 95.
Yeah. They had some of those on Mac too, but like we were really starved for games on Mac.
Also, you were a Mac guy growing up?
Yeah, the first ever computer that I got, my stepdad got for me. I was living at my grandparents' house at the time. My grandparents and my aunt and my cousin lived there, and my mom lived there. And this was before my mom and I moved in with my stepdad, who would become my stepdad later. But he got me a computer because, that was the new thing to get anyway. It was like, okay, you got to get your kid a computer, for study and school and like all this stuff. And but what I got really addicted to was Warcraft 2 at my friend's house.
Oh, okay.
Warcraft 2 I thought was like the best thing.
That game is so good.
Damn world. Yeah. And I had a friend like the same dude too. He had games like Elder Scrolls Daggerfall and Underworld, Ultima Underworld, and like all the weird like crazy
RPGs.
Simulator style RPGs. And that was like a whole different thing to me because I was used to NES.
Yeah.
It's like, and then here's this fucking like whole world you can run around in, like, and go through dungeons and kill monsters and like talk to people and like assassinate a king or whatever. But then he had Warcraft 2, and I thought that was like the raddest thing ever. And then since my stepdad did exhibit work, I got to go to E3 quite a few times.
Oh man, that must have been amazing.
Yeah, for a little kid, it was like the weirdest thing ever.
I remember always looking in the mags and be like, "Oh man, I wish I could go there." That was like, that's like if I had when I was a kid, if I had a choice to go to Disneyland or go to E3, E3.
Right? Same here. Yeah, I was like, I don't want to go to Disney. Let's go to E3. That's what it felt like too. Like I got to go to the E3 where they unveiled the Nintendo 64. Oh, and that was insane. Like Nintendo's booth, I call it a booth, but it was really more of a theme park. They must have spent just like millions of dollars putting that thing together. Like you started out like walking through these arches and it said like, you know, like Nintendo like above it. And there was like an animatronic Wario out there like insulting people like as they walk by, like, hey Baldy, like stuff like that, like hitting on people's girlfriends and stuff. And so it was somebody controlling it from a booth somewhere who could see like people walking around, but he was all animatronic and stuff.
I wonder if it's the guy that does the Mario 64's voice.
I don't know who is in there.
Charles guy, because he's the older guy, and he used to do that.
It's a me.
Yeah, he used to do that. They used to put like a face thing on him. And they did like a video screen, because I watched a lot of YouTube videos on him. And there was a thing, and he's like, he'll come up to people like, oh, it's a me. What's your name, little girl? Or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And he would like talk, but the face would move and stuff. But he would be in a booth, and he could see everything. But he would be doing it in a booth, like behind the scenes.
That sounds a lot like what was happening.
So that's probably was him. That was probably him doing that.
Yeah, instead it was just Wario. And it could have been that dude, and I didn't even know. But yeah, it was insane. Like they had that's one of the first things you saw, and then you go through this tunnel where in sections it like was a ramp that led up to this big platform, but as you went through the tunnel or the ramp, there were different themes. Like one was a Star Wars themed section where it was like there was a stormtrooper in there, and it looked like you were walking through the Death Star or something. And like, you could look out the window
awesome.
And you could see an X-Wing fighting a TIE fighter out there. And then you go through another area, and it's like, there was a big animatronic stone jaguar head, like roaring at you and stuff. And there's like lava under your feet. And like, it was insane. And you finally get up to this platform, and then there's a laser light show where they animate with lasers a big Wario face again. And he's talking to you about the 64. And then this guy on another like skinnier sort of like smaller platform gets raised up above everybody else, and your platform gets raised up too that everyone's standing on, and then you're presented with this giant screen that they're projecting Mario 64 onto, and like the guy on the platform's playing it and talking to you, and it's like, you can climb trees. Like everyone's like, what?
That's awesome.
Yeah,
dude, that was probably. I mean, you can't even explain in words, really.
No, yeah, that was I'm trying to, but I'm failing.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Do you remember if they were announcing that as Ultra 64 back then, or was it already Nintendo 64?
That's a good question. That's something that I'm trying to remember. I think at that point they had decided on Nintendo 64. This was like right before launch too. This was the summer before the fall that they launched the 64. So by then I think it was Nintendo.
Oh, okay.
But then not even on the main floor, like where all that Nintendo crap was and everything, there was a whole other room, like another conference area, and that was where the smaller developers were. And Blizzard was in there. And they had this like tiny little kiosk with a few machines around it, all running Warcraft 2. And that was where I played Warcraft 2. And they had like a dude in an orc costume like hanging out there, but he was the orc from the Warcraft 2 cinematics.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, even like so I got to go to one of the E3s where like Blizzard wasn't even like a thing yet, you know. They were just like really they were small. Little, and it was like they had made like Blackthorn on Super Nintendo and Warcraft 1 on DOS, and then Warcraft 2 was a new thing. And then I think they were working on Diablo as well, because they had a Diablo cinematic playing on a monitor somewhere.
Yeah, Diablo was a separate team.
Yeah, Blizzard North, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or what would become Blizzard North.
Yeah. That's crazy, man. That's really cool.
That was fun. I was pretty excited to be able to see that.
You know what's the most disappointing thing for me with the Nintendo 64 was that they never released Killer Instinct on Nintendo 64.
Damn it.
Because they did 2, but 2 has it's a whole different thing. Like the mechanics are different.
Yeah, it feels like a weird. Yeah, the Killer Instinct 2 that came out on 64, which did they even call it that, or did they call it Killer Instinct Gold?
Yeah, Gold.
Yeah, it's like a weird mashup of the first Super Nintendo one and the arcade second game.
Yeah. And the thing too is like when I was, because the arcade that I was talking about, they had Killer Instinct.
Ultra 64.
Yes, and it's like coming to your home console in 1996. Ultra 64, Killer Instinct. And I was like, holy shit. And then I saw all these graphics and it looked amazing. I hated that. I think we lost Tobor again. This is a professional podcast, I promise. Stream podcast.
It's my fault. I keep Oh, are we back on now?
You're back on. Yeah, we're back on.
Awesome. Okay. Sorry guys, my internet is God, I just got a new modem too and they upgraded my service, but apparently I'm having some disconnection problems.
So you know exactly the quote I was talking about with the Ultra 64. You remember seeing that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coming to Nintendo Ultra 64. It had like fog and stuff and like this big chrome like plate.
Yep. And
like,
it said Ultra 64. Hell yeah. See, dude, that's the thing. That's what broke my heart because they never released it. And I still get upset. Like,
so do I. I wanted in their arcade perfect Killer Instinct on the fucking Nintendo 64.
And now it's barely like playable on a console, right? Isn't the I think the new Killer Instinct came out. I think you can play the old one, right?
Can you?
I think so. Or I think you can buy it on Xbox Live or something like that. I know there's like I know there's a playable way now to play it, but for so many years you could never play that version unless you played the arcade.
Yeah, you had to have a cabinet or something or emulate it, I guess.
Yeah. Which is crazy to me.
Yeah, that's garbage. I was so excited for the Ultra 64, and I was excited for the Final Fantasy that they were working on for.
Oh yeah, that was another one.
You remember those? You remember the screenshots of I think it was Celeste and Locke or something that they had like mock-ups of. I was like, oh my god, they're 3D. Video games are never gonna look better than this.
Yeah, no, that would have been. I mean, if they actually released it, I mean, well, I think if they could have probably put it later on, like during the lifespan later, if they actually developed it, like they did. Resident Evil 2 fits on a cartridge. That's a 2-disc game
with voiceover, huh? And some of the video,
it has cutscenes, voiceover, everything.
And you can actually feel them weighing down the the cartridge is heavier.
Yeah. It's I think it's like
all the extra crap they had to put in there.
512 megabits. So it's like 256 megabit chips on the cartridge.
Yeah.
Whoever worked on that, man, they worked magic.
Yeah, but you could tell it was probably very expensive to produce.
Oh yeah. Because the thing too is like they were supposed to do the disc drive thing, and that never came out here either.
Yeah, the HDD.
Yeah, I was excited for that too.
Yeah, me too. I was when I played Earthbound. Have you played Earthbound?
I played a little bit of it, yeah.
So at the beginning of the game, when you're setting up your characters and everything, and you're naming your character, the game asks you, like, what's your favorite thing? And you can put in a little thing, and whatever you say your favorite thing is, it names one of your main spells, that thing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And my favorite thing was Ultra 64.
Oh.
And like it wasn't even out yet, obviously, and it wasn't Nintendo 64 yet. But I remember doing that in Earthbound. Like me and my friend were so fucking hyped for that damn thing.
And that
so anytime my character casts that spell, it's like Nest cast Ultra 64 at the Raging Hobo or whatever.
That just sounds so funny. Also, too, you know what? That's another thing that never came out on 64 was the Earthbound 64.
Yeah, there was a whole 3D thing that they were going to release on there.
Yeah, that had a lot of pictures too and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ultra 64 had a ton of Ultra. Here we go. Nintendo 64 had a ton of very well publicized games that were canceled for it.
Yeah, especially the disc drive too. It had a lot of potential. Mm-hmm. I wish they would have brought it here. I feel like if they did, it would have gave it like a second wind, I guess you would say.
Yeah, well, Zelda was supposed to have a whole series of extra quests that they were going to release, like piecemeal.
Yeah,
like DLC, kind of.
Yeah, because the F-Zero has a disc that you can put.
Yeah,
that actually got released in Japan, where you could use it to make tracks and stuff, and then you could save your tracks on the disc and stuff like that.
Yeah, that would have been badass. And expensive. Like
Yeah.
you know that thing would have cost like $400 or some stupid thing. Like just looking at it's like bigger than the damn console itself.
It is. Yeah, it sits right underneath it. It's pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
Thicker too. It's like I don't know. I've actually never seen one.
I've only ever seen photos of it.
It's starting to get expensive now. It's like a $600, $1,000 unit.
Jesus.
So, have you ever thought about maybe doing a booth at TwitchCon? Have you looked into that?
At TwitchCon, I have not.
Because there was people.
I have no idea what the the game presence is like at TwitchCon.
Because there was a lot of booths there that were like indie mobile games.
Oh, no kidding.
Like yeah, and there was like a lot of indie games there.
Was anybody paying attention to them?
Not really. But but the thing, like for me, like I noticed is because they were a lot of them were like sitting there. They were kind of like bored. They didn't look like they just didn't even want. To me, I didn't even want to go up to them. I feel like, oh, I'm gonna hassle these guys because they just look like they don't even want to be bothered.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
They were probably tired and no one was coming up, so it created like a miasma around them.
Yeah, and there's like people like the booth staff. People were like, "Oh, come over here, check it out," or whatever. There's some people like that, And I feel like if you had that kind of thing,
that was me toward the end of DreamHack.
I feel like if you had a guy dressed up as Savage in a costume in front of the booth, like get people to play the game, like
See, I have to do what Blizzard did with their orc costume.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you're like, oh, check out this guy, look at this guy, let's see what's going on over here. You know what I mean?
I'd have to do some sit-ups first, though.
Just get one of those spray-on six-packs.
Yeah, muscle suit.
Yeah, muscle suit. There you go. That's great.
Would you like to play my game? Come on.
So what's DreamHack like? Like, what is that? I actually don't even know anything about a lot of conventions.
DreamHack was originally, or is, traditionally, I guess is the word I'm looking for, a Swedish-based competitive gaming, like combination tournament festival convention thing.
Oh.
So its main focus is esports stuff. So Paladins, Smite, Fortnite.
Oh, okay.
That sort of stuff, like Counter-Strike, like CS:GO or whatever, and things like that. And it's only just recently started getting shows in the United States too. And I think I've done both of the ones in the United States now.
Oh, you've been there before, huh?
There's only been 2 of them. Yeah.
Okay.
One of them was in Austin, so it was like right down the street for me. And then this other one, which was in Atlanta, they contacted me and they were like, "Hey, we'll give you a free booth, and whoever gets in like gets an award and like all this." So I was like, "Oh, okay, sure, that sounds all right." So this one in Atlanta, they tried to really showcase more indies. There were like 50 indies at this one.
Oh, wow.
At the one in Austin, there were only like 4. So it's like me and 2 VR games and like someone else. But at this one, it was like, okay, this is like they're actually trying to make the smaller games side of it a little more legit. But it was still like you can tell people aren't really going there for that.
Yeah, they still got to promote it more.
Just for an example, like I estimated maybe 3 to 5 people came by and actually played Savage per hour, maybe on average. So foot traffic for us was very light for like me and the other indie devs there.
Do you have a demo of your game? Is there a demo? Because I heard you say there's a demo like on Steam, right? Or where did you get the demo?
It's on GameJolt and it's on IndieDB. I should put it on the Steam page too.
Can you you could do it on Steam page as well?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
And so
I'm pretty sure that they let me do that.
How far does the demo go? Like from the actual game that you have like right now, versus like the game I can play.
Yeah, the demo lets you play like I want to say it's approximately like 25 to 30% of the overworld map.
Okay.
And it's got over 5 hours in it.
So on GameJolt and
on Game Jolt and IndieDB.
Okay.
And
I don't know.
yeah,
I
like
was going somewhere with
you have access to everything that the main game has. Like anyone that can play the main game right now, like the Kickstarter backers, for example. The demo is the same thing, except that there's like progression is gated.
Yeah.
Like I've removed a spot where you can't get any further, like past a choke point on the world map. Like that's not in there. But you can like wander around, you can level up, you can really juice it if you want. It's like Savage shareware.
Yeah. No, exactly. That's what I was thinking, because you were saying about like how not that many people are showing up at your booth, or you were expecting not so many people to show up. So I was thinking, like, because that's another thing that I always think about, like, is it really worth like doing physical? Is it really worth doing like physical presence stuff? Like just being a musician, is it even worth doing live shows if you're trying to start out? That kind of stuff. Like, is it worth it?
Yes and no. Like, I have made some really good contacts, like networking wise, doing these. I don't think they're ever really necessarily a good idea to try to, like, say for example, if Savage was out and you could buy it, I don't think they're ever, like, I wouldn't do it just to sell copies.
Yeah.
I would want to go there to talk to, like any big streamers that are there that look at the game. Or for example, the first DreamHack that I did, PC Gamer came up and checked it out, and they did a whole video interview and a video of capturing the game footage and a write-up.
Yeah, there's a video on YouTube by them, right?
Yeah, they did a write-up and an article and a couple videos on Savage. So it was like, that was worth it. That, right there. Maybe, probably. I mean, I think so.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of what you're trying to do when doing a convention. I don't know.
Yeah, because that's also true, because you don't know who's gonna walk by. You know what I'm saying? Like, who's gonna say, "Oh, look at this game! It's really cool," and like someone might dig it, and you don't know who they are, and they might play it or talk to other people who might dig it and stuff like that. Versus being some random dude on Twitch.
Yeah. And it's like, and I think, and it helps for people to see your face who are like that. It helps to kind of like talk to somebody like one-on-one like that, and like instead of just through email or Twitter or whatever. That more human element helps always.
I think this is like the first time we've talked like one-on-one as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was at least on audio on one of your streams, I think. But as far as like cameras,
yeah, that's the thing too. It's like I was thinking about that. I was like, wait, this is the first time we're actually going to talk.
Like, yeah, like I there's so many people that I know on Twitch now that I don't think I've ever actually like, not only just haven't met like in person, and like hung out face to face, but I've only either like done an audio call with them or and definitely not this.
Yeah.
Like,
that's the thing too. Like when I was in your chat, I'm like, oh man, me and Tobor, we would get along really good. Like we would be talking all the time.
Yeah.
And like I'm like trying to type stuff, and I'm like, oh, he didn't see what I typed, and I'm like, let me type this again, and then you laugh at it. I'm like, yes, I knew you would laugh at that. I knew you would laugh.
Yeah.
At it.
Yeah, and it's like you kind of build up this weird like you forget that you haven't actually done this with that person.
Yeah.
It's like because we've known you and I have known each other now for like since Knight introduced us, which was at least a year ago, I think. Now,
yeah, it's been about a year, probably longer.
Yeah. It's weird. It's weird to think about that. That sort of thing. It's like but since I watch you stream, like I have a good idea of at least your stream personality, right?
Mm-hmm. Which is the same as a regular.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Mm-hmm.
With the mild,
the only thing that's different
filter,
is like
maybe.
the context of the interaction, right? It's like you're reading chat and talking to chat as opposed to like having a more immediate like conversation like this.
Yeah.
Which I think this is the first time that I've interacted you like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. Which is crazy, but it's cool at the same time.
Yeah.
So the second DreamHack, there was a lot more people. You're saying there was a lot more indie developers there.
Yeah, there were a lot more indies, and we were placed better on the show floor. But the funny thing is I think I got about the same amount of people in my booth playing Savage as the first one.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I didn't really notice like a huge increase in interest or anything or interaction.
Did you meet anyone that was like or I don't want to say, I don't want to put anyone down, but like something that was big like PC Magazine or something like that on the second one, or any like huge interactions?
Yeah, I didn't get any press like people come up or
okay.
anything. I met some interesting people though. Like one of the I was telling you, one of the guys who worked on Road Redemption came up and played.
Oh yeah, cool. That's really cool.
I was like,
I love that game.
Yeah, which I guess they're based in Atlanta, so that's why he was there. He was checking out some indie games and stuff.
He didn't have a booth or nothing, huh?
Nope, he was just there, like checking stuff out, and like he gave me his card and stuff. I guess they do publishing as well, but he was really excited about Savage.
Wow. Well, that see, that's the contact right there. You never know what
exactly.
See that further.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool because that game is really fun. I love that game.
That game is awesome. Yeah, that game's a breath of fresh air.
It really is. And I've played that for years now, since way early access, before it even had multiplayer and stuff. And
you've been playing it as they've been working on it.
Yeah, and it's gotten better and better. Like, but even the early iteration of it was really good. Just it wasn't optimized that great at the beginning, but all early access games are like that. But
it's Unity too, which has issues.
Yeah, we were talking about the Unity. Oh my god, I always cross my fingers when I launch a Unity game. Hope that I get more than 30 FPS. If it's early access, it's so true. I don't know if it's like the copy and paste in that engine that a lot of people use that are just not optimized, or
yeah. No, I think that's the issue. That's a symptom of how easy it is to get into Unity and make something like out of the box without having to really like dig in and optimize your project, I think.
Yeah. No, I see it, and it's just as a player, not even knowing anything about engines or anything like that. I see it all the time.
Yeah.
Like early access game and it's in Unity. I'm like, oh man, I'm not thinking, can I even stream this? Dude, it's not like, seriously, I don't even know. I'm like, can I even stream this? Because it's probably going to be a slideshow, and sometimes it is.
And sometimes so many of them launch with that like cookie cutter or out of the box like little launcher thing.
Yeah.
What graphics do you want? Like pretty good.
Yeah, that's the first sign that I already know.
Gorgeous. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Yeah. No, for reals. If you use Unity, make sure you optimize it.
Yeah, and make it yours.
Yeah, make it yours.
And it's not to say that that development platform can't do that stuff. Like you can do that. You can make it the way you want. It's just so easy out of the box to like have these these cookie cutter elements in it from the get-go and then not change it.
That's the thing about early access that I feel like a lot of developers, they don't really consider. Is like someone's first experience of a game, and if it's usually that, are they going to go back to it? Like me, I normally don't. Because like I just play a lot of games, and I'm like, okay, I might check it out like a year later, but
your first impression.
I don't know. I
guess
guess
danger with having been so open with Savage for such a long time is it's like I bet I've lost a lot of people that have just like gotten like and rightfully so, like pissed off that the game's not done yet, and they're like, I'm never touching this again.
I don't know.
They've moved on to like The Witcher 3 or whatever.
I mean, I can't say that about yours because I played it and I liked it a lot. It felt really good. Like if you told me that the game wasn't done, I wouldn't have known.
Until you got a little ways in.
Yeah, until I got far enough where I couldn't go anywhere. But you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't.
Yeah. I have nightmares about that where I accidentally launched the game on Steam and then like in the nightmare, like I'm waiting the amount of time I think it takes for somebody to get to the unfinished spot, and then I start to see the negative reviews come in.
They're like, I
Like
can't.
the guy's
what's
like, you
going
know,
on?
10, 15 hours in, and he's like, hey.
This game's not done.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember we talked about that, the early access thing, like on your stream.
Yeah, that's something that I've been grappling with. And I usually, at least the last couple years, it comes up like in my brain a few times a year where I have like a very sort of like serious debate with myself. The only difference now is I'm starting to ask other people, other people who actually have experience with it. For example, the Road Redemption guy. Like I talked to him about it at DreamHack. I was like, so what do you think about early access? Because I know you guys did it for a while, and their game isn't exactly like what a lot of people's, for a while there, especially at the outset of early access, what a lot of people considered to be good early access games, which is the, you know, survival Minecraft-esque sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, you should put this on early access because it's you know, it's polished, and early access I think doesn't quite mean, or perception wise, it's not quite the same thing as it used to be. I think now it's you stand to gain a little bit more out of it community wise. Like I'm not even talking about sales wise. Like if I did early access, it wouldn't be like necessarily to help with funding or anything. Though I mean that would be awesome if it did, but it would be more to get eyeballs on it that the game wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Like that was the thing about the Kickstarter too. Like if I hadn't have done the Kickstarter, Savage would not have gotten like a certain amount of press that it got because of people that specifically watch Kickstarters.
Yeah.
And aggregate sites too that specifically pick up on indie video game Kickstarters, and then they cover them.
So is using Game Maker Studio, is that something you could put like on a console? Is there an option to?
Game Maker Studio has Xbox One, PlayStation 4. I think they're getting rid of Vita support, and then Game Maker Studio 2 has Switch support now too. So
yeah, I feel like that would be something to get on.
Yeah, you can export to all the main consoles now.
Because there's a lot of games that I play on PC, and I'm like, oh man, if this was on a console, I feel like it would do really well. Just because you got a different type of, you know, there's a different player base on console.
Yeah.
You know,
and
certain consoles
and in general too, like the install base for a console, like they bought it to have games on it. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Where it's like on PC, it's a little bit more Wild West sort of.
Yeah, it really is, and there's just so much competition too. That's the thing.
Yeah, and on PC, and then consoles are kind of getting similar, but on PC, like the style of game available is like it's everything.
Yeah.
You know, you can emulate on it. You can emulate a freaking Android OS on it and play mobile games on your PC. You can play, you know, the latest AAA game on it. You can play a bunch of middle market stuff. You can play stuff that's free.
Yeah.
You know, that people just put out, and you know. So like you there's all these weird like subcultures on PC.
Oh yeah, it's insane, man. There's everything from like emulation scene to like just indie scene. There's you know, there's just so much stuff. Modding, like just modding specific games.
Yeah. There's people that only play Doom and only make mods for Doom.
Yep.
And they're fine with that.
Yeah. That's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
All these years that Doom is still. Well, I mean, Doom's like if I were to put top 10 greatest games of all time, Doom is definitely on there.
I would too. Yeah, without even hesitating.
Because I remember the first time ever playing Doom. That's kind of like how you were saying about talking about Warcraft. That's kind of like
Doom scared me.
It was scary, a little scary. I'd say.
I didn't want to keep going because the monster noises were scary, and when they jump out at you, it's scary, and and the first person perspective made you feel vulnerable. Like it was you.
Yeah,
you know,
that was it. Because what first person game did you play before that?
I think Doom was probably the first game like that I played.
Yeah, because I think I played Doom, and then after I checked out Wolfenstein because I heard it was made by the same people.
Yeah, I definitely didn't play Wolfenstein first.
Mm-mm.
It was definitely either Doom or Doom 2 even that I played first.
Yeah, that was really fun. I used to have a buddy that had a computer and go over there, or just I would always find a random computer and be like CD, change directory, Doom,
Yeah.
and if it hit enter and it said Doom, I was like, yes, it's got Doom on it, and just play.
This has Doom on it.
Dude, there's so many computers that would have Doom on them. They'd be like a random office computer. You could type it in, you type it in, CD Doom, and it would change the folder, and it would be there. You'd be like, this computer has Doom. You wouldn't think this computer has Doom on it, but hell yeah, you're playing Doom. You know what I mean?
Yeah. At a certain point, it was like it wasn't a real machine if it didn't have Doom on. It was like Minesweeper. Like it had, it has Hearts, Free Cell, Minesweeper, Solitaire, and Doom.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. That was that was smart too. That was the shareware thing that really brought it to everywhere.
Yeah.
It being a good game and the shareware thing,
Back when we used to get demos of video games in the mail with samples of Tide.
I remember, speaking of odd promotions, I remember when Jack in a Box. I don't know if you guys got Jack in a Box there, but it's a fast food joint, and you would get Sonic CD, Sonic and Knuckles, or I think Echo the Dolphin for Windows 95.
What?
And you would get it on a disc, and it would be a PC version of those games.
Oh man, that sounds a little familiar. I feel like
I think you
but since I didn't have a DOS machine too, like I kind of missed out on some of that stuff.
I think you paid like $5 and they gave you the game.
Yeah,
and
I bet one of my friends had something like that going on.
And you would pay it would be like a window by like 340 by 300 by 2 something.
Yeah.
But the resolution back then was like 640 by 480, so it looked pretty big. But I've launched one recently, and it's like a little dot on the screen. Like you're like, wow, we used to play on that.
Yeah, that's the size Savage is. Savage is a 400 by 240.
Really?
And I just scale it up to fit your display. But
Holy
crap. If you look at it on a 1080 display, it's like this little teeny tiny
really
postage stamp thing. Yeah.
Does that make it more difficult to work on, like pixel wise or anything?
No, I mean, like all the editors that I use, like I just zoom in.
Oh, okay.
When I'm drawing, But yeah, I do all pixel by pixel.
What programs do you use to do that, or is it inside the Game Maker?
Game Maker does have a sprite editing stuff in it, like built in, but I don't like using it because it's not very good. It's not very robust. Like it doesn't have layers, for example, like in Photoshop or something.
Oh yeah.
I use something called Graphic Scale, which is specifically built for pixel art, like low resolution sprite animation. But it has layers like Photoshop and stuff. So I can animate like a barbarian guy, and then I can do another layer that's like a helmet.
Yeah, I've seen you do that where you take the arm off and put a different arm on him.
Yeah.
Put his head off and put a different head on him.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool.
Chunky old pixels. Still in 2018.
So and what file formats does it import to? Like if when you import the pictures, it like PNG or something?
I export them as a sheet.
Yeah,
so like a
pixel chart.
Yeah, and it breaks down into kind of a grid. Like each frame is a certain size, and they're all uniform across the whole sheet. So if you have like 12 frames of like a running animation, it's just one big strip. And I export that as a PNG, and then I give it like a frame count in the file name, and then GameMaker recognizes that, and then it chops it up and puts the images in sequence.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then you can see them animated, and you can use it as a sprite asset in the game and give it a speed and all that stuff.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So if you actually just wanted to mess with Game Maker, and even if you're not really trying to make a game, you just want to mess with it, you could put like some sprite sheet from like Mario and like import it and run. Or
you could grab a Mega Man thing off of Google Images and
without having to do all the work. of like finding the ROM and exporting it and all that.
Yeah.
All that.
You
crap.
too could port Mega Man to DOS.
Oh yeah, you're talking about those game sites where they port. That's
yeah. There's a lot
cool.
of people that do that. They'll make like little Metroid maps and stuff, and whatever else.
I want to talk about the Megadex thing.
Okay.
So that's basically the game guide you're working on for your game, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to build it as a like if PlanetTobor had a Nintendo Power.
Yeah, that's
basically.
Also in the commercial for the game.
Mm-hmm. And that was supposed to be a joke, like just a fun to add flavor to the commercial, to make it feel like a product of, the early 90s or whatever.
Yeah.
But then enough people in my channel or who watched the video started asking like, is that a real, can I get that? Can I actually subscribe to the Megadex, as you say? And I'm like, no. But then again, just like with the Kickstarter too, it's like enough people ask you about it. It's like, you know what? Yeah, okay. But then the Megadex is even more fun than a Kickstarter. So it's like, okay, yeah, let's do a Megadex. And what it's going to have in it is, little Savage features and stuff. Like if I wind up, getting off my ass and actually putting one out before the game is done, like it'll have like my development sort of stuff in there. Because when I do a development post, it's usually very magazine style anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's got, like little bullet points and graphics and little diagrams of like, some of the design process and stuff, which would fit perfectly like on a magazine page. And then, put in some maps like for some of the game areas in Savage, like as a mini, like sort of walkthrough strategy guide thing. And then lore stuff about, the Argeshi Empire and why it fell and, things like that. And then a comic too, is what I want to do. Like a little, a couple pages per Megadex of like a comic, kind of like what you found in Nintendo Power, how they had like a Star Fox comic. Yeah. So, and Nestor, like Nestor was a comic character in Nintendo Power. And then other games, like I'd like to, do some write-ups on like some retro games and stuff that I play on stream, as well as other indie games, like games that you can buy now that are new that maybe not a lot of people are paying attention to.
You could put an ad for them in their game and then make it
exactly like make it like
really
properly
legit.
schlocky.
But it's really a real ad for a real game, even though it doesn't look like it's a real ad.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like an ad from the 90s, but you would make it into a
done up in the style of the 90s.
Yeah, but then people will look it up and be like,
now.
Or people have it and not even realize that it's a real game, and then maybe come across and be like, wow, that's
like,
actually a real game.
I'd like to do that with like streamers I watch too, like have an ad for their channel.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah, like have a vgREALM ad, have a MRR Night ad.
Yeah,
like ads that you maybe actually want to look at because they're fun and not get upset because it took up page space in your Game Fan magazine or whatever. I remember being kind of mad with some of those. Like GamePro got really ad heavy at one point.
Yeah, some of them got pretty crazy, and it got thinner too. That was the thing over time.
Yeah, thinner and more ads.
Yeah,
and less and worse quality paper.
I remember like I used to have like the original very first like EGM magazine, Electronic Gaming Monthly. They used to be like really thick, like 1.5 inches, 2 inches thick. And then
hundreds of pages.
Later on, it would like start getting half of that. I remember like getting the latest one and like comparing it to my old original one. It was like a half of that or a quarter of that. And I was like, man, what is going on? Dude, the original EGM, you could hit someone over the head and knock them out with it. Like it was dude, it was thick
like
as hell.
Deadly weapon. Yeah. I had some GamePro magazines that were like that too. Specifically, I remember the Donkey Kong Country GamePro cover was like, it was massive. It was like a tome.
And now,
and a lot of them had really awesome, like they would cover anime in them and stuff, and like things that came out overseas that weren't over here.
Yeah, I used to love reading about that stuff.
Yeah, like through Game Fan magazine, through an import store in the back of the magazine, I bought my first import game, which was Seiken Densetsu 3, which is Secret of Mana 2. So that was how I got introduced to a lot of that stuff. I wouldn't have known about Street Fighter 2, the animated movie.
Oh yeah, without
Game Fan magazine.
That's actually pretty cool.
And
I've watched a
the
bit of
whole
that.
Chun-Li shower scene and all that stuff.
Dude, you know what? Speaking of GamePro, like one of the things that they got me on was they had a thing for Resident Evil 2 that if you did a certain like just like a certain thing in the game, like certain conditions or whatever, to unlock Akuma. And that was
What? Akuma's in that game? What? No,
it's not. See, it was a April Fool's issue. I didn't realize it was an April issue.
Oh, okay.
And for years I was trying for years, literally literal years. And then I kind of like forgot about it, right? And then I was like on the internet, I'm like, whatever happened to Akuma? I'll look on YouTube and see if someone unlocked it. And then I've like started reading about it. It's like April Fool's joke, and I was like, dude, it seemed like they had screenshots of it. It looked legit, like oh, because you know Resident Evil's had a lot of secrets. There was quite a few secrets in those games, and and I thought that was a real one. You know, it's Capcom Akuma. It seemed pretty like it would actually be a thing.
Like Capcom would put an Easter egg of their own thing in there,
and they never do the screenshot. I'm like.
That's funny.
Someone needs to mod that in. Someone out there knows how to do that. You need to put Akuma in Resident Evil 2.
Well, and how fun would that be too to put stuff like that in the magazine, like little red herring kind of things, like, hey, if you reset, you know, Holy Diver in your Nintendo twice and wait 30 seconds and then power it back on, he'll be naked, you know, or whatever.
That'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
So
that's the gist of the Mega Dex, pretty much, and then fan art too. I'd like to put in some fan art, and you know, like the old envelope art that people used to send in.
Oh yeah. I remember that. I used to actually, when I used to read game magazines, I used to start from the back because that's where all the good stuff was. I would always read the magazines backwards because I would be like, oh yeah, this is where all the good stuff is at. You know, like the cheat codes.
But usually they'd have their like a lot of them would have their like quick takes in the back too, where it was like and the little squares of like, this is what we think of this game, this is what we think of this game, this is what we think of this game.
And the imports would be usually in the back, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, imports were always in the back, and like models and toys and stuff. And
so the Mega Dex, is it going to be a physical or digital or both?
Both. Mainly digital. Like that's probably if like people keep telling me a few people keep telling me it's a good idea to have like something like a Patreon. So I'm like, you know what? Putting a Mega Dex or something as a reward for that, like where you would actually be able to subscribe to it, you know, like you would have to a Nintendo Power or something, and then like it's like every quarter or whatever you get your new issue of the Mega Dex or something. You get access to like the full digital spread and all that stuff. But I would love to do like another. It would obviously be a little more expensive because I'd have to get them printed and then ship them. So I'm looking into the logistics of that. But there are places I have found that do like proper magazine on demand, like print runs and stuff, where you can do as little as like 10.
Oh, okay.
So like I wouldn't be, ordering like 1,000. Like then the prices are somewhat pretty reasonable, where like I don't think like, it doesn't seem like charging somebody for something weird like a physical video game magazine in 2018. Like it would be targeted at very specific people.
Yeah, I feel like that's a premium item nowadays. So
exactly. It'd be like you really want that thing, and it's like it's not common, and it's
that could be like your deluxe edition benefit too. Like if you when the game comes out,
that'd be fun. Yeah,
you could put like
printed out maps and posters and a Mega Dex.
The digital, you could have a digital version for like Steam, and if you were sold it like physical copies, the deluxe version could be, and if you still want to keep it monthly, like if they buy the deluxe or whatever, you could always put it as DLC, right, and make it unlock for those people that bought the digial.
Oh,
like a season pass, like a season pass type thing.
Mega Dex season pass.
Yeah, and you get the Mega Dex, right?
I wonder how that would work. Yeah,
I don't know how Steam works, but that's just how I would see it in my head.
Yeah,
For you to be able to roll it out, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually gonna take a quick note of that because that's a good idea.
That's another thing too. Is like you probably get a lot of ideas from the chat, right?
I do,
When you're
yeah.
streaming.
Yeah, there's some like mechanical stuff that has made it into the game because somebody mentioned it, you know. Like for example, when you throw an enemy onto the spikes, and you can land on them and walk across them like as a platform. Somebody was like, it would be cool if you could like jump up and down on them and they'd go deeper onto the spike.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
I
like
liked that. I remember
I
seeing
was
that.
like, oh
for the
hey, you
first
know what?
times.
Yeah, that's kind of fun. And then it turns it into almost like a mini game too, where it was like, how many times can I jump on this guy before it's no longer safe, before the spike is like sticking out of the guy? So like, yeah, that's a thing that came out purely because I stream, you know.
Yeah,
and
that's
somebody in chat was
also
like, hey,
that's like the charm of it, of the
Mm.
game, because there's a lot of little what's the right word? A lot of little intricate things that the game, or intricate mechanics that the game does that you don't expect.
Mm.
And then when you see it, you're like, oh wow, that's cool. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like there's a lot of that in it.
Yeah, I don't feel like I've done a very good job of communicating that to some people.
Really?
I feel like a lot of people have that initial reaction when they see it. It's like, oh, it's just another, you know, pixel art indie platformer cash grab thing or whatever, you know. And then it's like you play it and it's like, oh wait, you're telling me this game has seasons and it has an overworld map and it has like you can attack up and down and you can, you know, it's
Yeah,
got leveling up. What? Wait, hold on. And then they take a closer look and they get kind of excited.
yeah, because it's basically RPG with a lot of mechanics. A lot of mechanics. There's how many weapons are in the game?
Oh, geez. So by category, there are swords, axes, maces, and then there are two-handed variants of those. There are daggers, there are pole arms, so like, you know, tridents and spears and halberds and stuff. Whips and flails. A couple throwing weapons, knives and axes, throwing knives and axes. Shields that in some respects double as a weapon. Like you've got your shield bash, and some shields have like spikes on them or claws that can do extra damage. And within each of those categories, minus maybe the whips and flails, those are a little bit more limited. But within each of those categories, there's maybe like 12 to 14.
Oh wow.
Weapons of that category. So, you know, there's like 12 to 14 like one-handed swords, for example, and then one-handed axes and etc.
That's
So
really
there's
cool.
there's a few that I haven't put in yet. Like the two-handed swords, for example, need filling out.
And
So there's still work to do, but that's basically going forward. That's the plan. There's a lot in there right now. There's about like 60 to 70 weapons in the game right now.
so if you were to work on another game, would you still do it in Game Maker Studio, or would you try to, with your knowledge of the programming, would you try to do it in something else?
Well, it depends on what kind of game I tackle next. If I was going to do a 2D game, you know, something that looked like Savage, and if I did do a 2D game, it would probably be like lo-fi kind of pixel art again.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I were to do another 2D platformer, for example, I would probably stick with Game Maker. If I wanted to do something that was in 3D or something, like I'd probably go with Unreal Engine 4.
Oh, okay.
Game Maker doesn't really do 3D. I mean, it does, but and you can make it work, but it's like you got to go way out of your way to get it to work the way
I
you
didn't
want.
know that. I thought Game Maker was either or. I didn't realize it was strictly 2D.
Yeah, I mean, the world map in Savage, for example, is 3D, but it's very limited 3D. But you can't import like complex 3D models that are all rigged and animated and stuff.
Okay.
Very easily in Game Maker. You usually have to write your own like DLL or find an extension that someone else wrote to. Yeah.
So it's like fully customizable then, though, right? So people have hacked in stuff.
I think so. I think there's also some limitation with that too, though, that irritates some people. I've heard.
Oh, okay.
So I'd rather just go with something like Unreal Engine 4 or even Unity or something, something like that. I have played around with Unreal Engine 4 and I got to say it's amazing.
How are those engines good? I mean, not good, but how Are they good with 2D? You know, like
They
offhand?
do have. I haven't used them personally, but they do have anymore a pretty robust 2D package. So I've been told.
Okay.
Unity has gotten better, I've heard, with their 2D stuff, and Unreal Engine 4 also has something called it's got a system called like paper doll, paper cutout something, which is it's 2D thing. So but yeah, I'm sure you can make any of those things, bend to your will if you know how to do it.
Is there any
Game Maker out of the box, like that is built
for 2D?
Is
there any other engines like that are specifically made for 2D that you know
of? Construct, I think. Construct 2, which is multimedia click fusion something. It's got a weird name. Again, I think it's changed names a couple times. So there's that. I know Stencil does something similar. I haven't used any of these.
Mm-hmm.
I just know from, heard it through the grapevine. But yeah, I know, for example, I don't know if you know the game Odalis, The Dark Call.
Yeah.
That was made in multimedia fusion.
Whatever its name is.
Yeah, whatever that thing is called. That was made. Yeah, it was made in Ultra 64 fusion.
Before it was Nintendo 64.
Yeah, exactly. Coming soon to Ultra 64. And all of their games, those guys, like they made Oniken, Odalis, The Dark Call.
Oh yeah, Oniken's
and Blazing Chrome is the game that they're coming out with soon, which looks fucking gorgeous.
I don't think I've seen
it. And it's like a Contra style. It's like Contra 3 is the closest thing that I would describe it as.
Have you ever heard of that Contra clone called Super Cyborg?
Yeah, I was watching Retro Shred.
Nice, you know this
yesterday. Yeah, yes.
Yes, I'm happy that you know this. Because it's so obscure. It's really obscure. It's really obscure, but yeah,
I would love to pick it up. And for example, I'd love to put that in the Megadex, like I'd love to have a little like 1 or 2 page thing on that, something, because I think I would like that game.
It plays just like Contra, but it's tough. I mean, Contra's tough, but I think for me, Contra doesn't feel that tough, probably because I already know a lot of the game. I feel like if I play Contra blind, it'd probably be just as tough. But that Super Cyborg.
Super Cyborg looks like it was made for people that already know Contra.
Yeah.
And then it's like they have a new Contra to figure out now, and it's harder. But the music was awesome, and the all the aliens and stuff that you fight in it looked really cool. Like I liked all the blood and guts. And what's weird about Super Cyborg to me is like it almost looks like Sega said they wanted their own Contra, so they ported it to either the Master System or the Mega Drive. It's got kind of that look to me, like it's with the colors and stuff. It looks like Sega colors.
Yeah, I see that. Okay, so Game Maker Studio, you just basically fell into that, or was it like a decision, or you're just like, oh, this does 2D, so you grabbed it? Because I just thinking like if you started this project in something else, would it even exist? Would it even exist?
Who knows, what I mean? Man? I think I lucked out with Game Maker. So what happened was after the disaster that was living in LA, excuse me, and I knew I wanted to make a game. Like I just had an itch. I was like, and that's something that I had kind of dipped my toe in with like over the years. Like there were these other like kind of game making engines and stuff. Like on Mac, for example, there was this thing called the Cold Stone RPG engine, where I tried to make a Ninja Gaiden game using an engine that was supposed to be built to make a Diablo style game.
Oh.
So that was weird. I only got as far as making an opening cinematic where it was pixel art, and it was like an apple was falling out of a tree, and you see these sword slashes, and it's like the apple separates, like Samurai Showdown style, and then like a ninja appears. Something stupid like that.
That's cool.
But it looked all janky because I was doing what I wasn't supposed to be doing.
Bending it to
but over the years,
will.
I had always had this itch to build a game, and then after the disaster that was living in LA, I was like, you know what? Let's see if there's anything out there that would help me do this. And I after some like Google searches and stuff, I wound up with Game Maker Studio. Like I found a bunch of other ones that looked very specific, where it was like make a top-down grid-based puzzle game, or make a very, very specific kind of platformer game where and the tools didn't really allow you to go crazy with it. Game Maker Studio was kind of like make whatever you want. So it's like, okay, like everything from the user interface to everything. Like you can make whatever you draw in Photoshop, you can put into Game Maker, and that's what I was looking for.
Did it have like pre-made games already that you could launch up and then look at code and be like, oh, this is how you do this, or this is how you do that?
There were like tutorials you could get that were like completed projects.
Yeah.
And you could import it into Game Maker and kind of, root around and see like what exactly they did to make it work. But what I did was I found these 2 books at Barnes & Noble of all places. Like Barnes & Noble had a couple Game Maker books that I got, and I did all of the projects and tutorials in them, like cover to cover each, like a couple times. And then even after that, like, see, this was over the course of a couple of years too. Cause I was working jobs and stuff, and it was very hobby.
Yeah.
Very, like I'd even put it down for 6 months at a time and then go back and pick it up again and mess around with it, or bring a laptop to work and like kind of fart around on my lunch breaks or whatever. But those books were pretty dang helpful at understanding Game Maker. And then YouTube tutorials, and forum posts. Like Savage is basically 90% like Google searches for stuff like that. Like my guy is stuck in the block. I don't know how to get him out. Help! And like type it into Google and like see if anybody has the same problem. And
it's you search like 8 pages till you find the one that says solved. And
yeah, and then try to apply that logic, to my project. And anymore, like I kind of understand what's happening.
Has anyone done anything as ambitious as yours on Game Maker Studio?
Oh, I'm sure. Let's see. Off the top of my head, my friend Leth, Matt Griffin, Leth on Twitch, he made 2 games called Wanderlust. One is Wanderlust Adventures, one is Wanderlust Rebirth. And those are multiplayer they look kind of like Secret of Mana, sort of, or Zelda, like Super Nintendo Zelda. They're top-down action RPGs. You can play them multiplayer, and the maps are randomly generated like Diablo.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. There's character classes and stuff.
So it has network support, or you gotta hack that in?
It does have, I think, some rudimentary network functions in it, in the code. Like it has functions that you can call that send and receive network packets of information back and forth. So, and that's Matt's sort of forte too, because he then went on to help Risk of Rain, which they made their game in Game Maker also. Risk of Rain.
Oh, really?
Yes, Risk of Rain's a Game Maker game. I know that one. And he programmed the network play in Risk of Rain.
Wow.
Spelunky was also a Game Maker game.
Okay.
It started out as a Game Maker game. Yeah. Hyperlight Drifter is a Game Maker game.
So it's quite a bit then. See, I've never, I don't do game dev, so I don't know, but I just know the main ones like Unreal and Unity and
yeah. Yeah, there's a fair amount that are made in Game Maker that are like pretty surprising. You can juice Game Maker if you really want to. Like you can get a lot of mileage out of it.
That was a pretty good choice then.
Yeah. For being able to make a 2D, pixel art sort of thing, like low fidelity, but kind of dense in features. I think Game Maker, you can do whatever you want, really. Like you could probably make a spreadsheet program with Game Maker if you wanted. Like it's pretty agile,
pretty flexible. Yeah, because I remember, like when we were talking about FL Studio and how like a lot of people would be like, "Oh, FL Studio, that's not a real program to make music. You can't make music with that. That's kind of like a joke program." But now there's so many people that use it. Like big producers use it now and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't blame them too, because I remember like really, really loving some of the sounds I was getting out of it that I, couldn't get anywhere else.
It's very intuitive too. You don't have to be like Googling so much. Like, how do I do this or do that? Like, you just look at it and you can see, okay, this goes here, that goes there. You know what I mean?
I haven't used it in years, but even back then, in like 98, 99, it was very intuitive.
Yeah, because a lot of DAWs now, they're pretty intimidating, man. There's just so much that goes into it, and you just like you can't even. I'm like, how do you even hit record on this thing? I can't even figure it out. Like, I've been doing this for a long time, and I still can't figure out how to record on this damn thing. Like,
yeah, and I started on like a 2-track Tascam recorder.
Oh yeah, the cassette deck, right?
Yeah, and learned how to bounce tracks and all that stuff, and then I upgraded eventually to like a digital deck, like not a computer, but
yeah, a little digital,
a Tascam 8-track digital recorder.
Got like 4 hours of recording on it or whatever, something like that.
Yeah, with really, really terrible built-in filters and effects and stuff.
Yeah.
And then eventually I got a computer on it with I don't know if you know Innuendo or Nuendo.
No, I've never heard of that one.
It's based on Cubase, I think.
Oh, okay.
But it's also it was used a lot for like film as well. Like if you wanted to edit a score for film, like because it had some video features on it where you could like watch something and like sync up some music.
Audio.
Yeah, exactly. But otherwise, I think it was basically Cubase. And that thing was a monster. Cubase was, or Innuendo.
There's trying to think. There was not FL. Oh, Sonar. Sonar's free now.
I think I remember Sonar.
Yeah, there's a company that bought that off, and it's free now.
Sonar was very like intimidating too, right? Like, that was
a little bit, yeah. Yeah, it was a little bit intimidating. Cubase, Sonar,
Cakewalk.
Yeah, Cakewalk, Sonar.
Yeah, I remember Cakewalk being a separate thing once upon a time, and I guess Sonar is Cakewalk now, or Cakewalk owns Sonar, based on what I'm looking at. But that's free. That's crazy that that's free. That's like saying that Pro Tools from back then would be free now or something.
Yeah. Someone bought them out and then they made it free.
Mm-hmm. I remember Pro Tools being like thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah. And that program really makes me want to pull my hair out. That's the most unintuitive program I've ever used for audio.
Is that what you use mostly?
No. I actually use an old version of Adobe Audition, like 1.5.
Oh, okay.
It used to be called
I think I remember
Pro.
You mentioning that now. Yeah.
Because it doesn't use that much CPU power. You could take the jankiest laptop, put a decent sound card on it, and it records and it sounds great.
Okay. Yeah, that same thing with what I use is Reaper. You can run Reaper off of a thumb drive.
I remember that. I've not messed with Reaper much, but I messed with it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Reaper's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, it's from what I've seen lately, anyway. For me, it's the easiest thing to use, which is a big deal to me. Cause like I don't want to mess around with all this extra crap. I just want to record something.
Yeah, exactly. Because like a lot of the stuff is like, oh, this is all for electronic music or whatever.
Yeah,
and if you're just trying to record guitars,
looping and sequencing and all this crazy shit, and it's like I'm very linear when it comes to when I make a song.
See, that's something that someone needs to get on, a program that's meant for doing guitars and drums, and that's it. You know what I mean? Like maybe
you can lay a bass, you can lay drums, you sing, you can do a vocal track or something,
and then maybe have like VST plugins if you want to throw some synth, like just
that. That kind of feels like Reaper, though. Honestly. What you're describing to me feels like Reaper. Yeah.
Maybe I need to go back to Reaper and check it out then. It's been a long time.
Yeah, maybe.
It's been a long time since I used it. All right. Did you want to keep going or did you want to close it up?
I don't know. I think I might be good. How do you feel?
I just gotta use the restroom.
Oh, sure, yeah. I probably should too, and then we can figure it out once we have maybe both gone to the bathroom.
All right, so we'll be right back, guys.
Bathroom break.
Right, there we go. All right, we're back.
Hey.
I gotta get the hang of changing that scene. It's like everyone's head's cut off.
It's all good.
Okay,
It's all good. If there isn't a bunch of crap going wrong, then you're probably not doing it right.
that's true. Right? Or you're not learning. You're not gonna learn anything.
Yeah.
You guys got to learn from your mistakes. Okay, let me see. Oh, the little guy. Okay, you have like a little picture of a guy in your menu. It's like, I guess it's supposed to be Savage, right? In the menu of your game. Is it supposed to be like a lemming? Like a ode to like a lemming, or is it just
a picture of a guy?
Yeah, next to like the stats in your game, there's a little face, and it totally reminds me of like a lemming. Is that like an Easter egg, or is that just supposed to be him?
Well, it's definitely not a lemming Easter egg or anything.
Oh, okay.
It looks like the barbarian guy.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Well, is the barbarian's name Savage, right? Or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or his canon name is Kel, but you can name him whatever you want to.
Okay. So
he could be Buttface if you want, for example.
I normally name my characters Bob.
Bob's
just because it's so generic. Like, oh, what's your name? Oh, his name's Bob.
Yeah, Bob the Barbarian. Bob's Revenge.
So the face is just supposed to be him, right?
Yeah, that's basically like it's a resurrection token.
Yes, that's what it is. Yeah, the resurrection token. Okay, see, my memory's
and I wanted it to look like a little, like in some of the older games, like when you get we used to call them like extra guys.
Yeah,
or
extra man
or one-ups or whatever.
Yeah, free man.
Yeah, some of them like it looked like a little miniature version of the main character.
I gotcha. I just thought it was like a lemming. I was like, he snuck a lemming.
That's funny. Maybe it is.
That's the first thing. That's the first thing I thought was it was a lemming, and I was like, yes, there's a lemming in here. I thought I found an Easter egg.
I'm sorry to disappoint you.
It's fine.
I mean, wait, whoops. Yes, it's supposed to be lemming.
So, how long have you been streaming on Twitch?
Since 2013, I think.
Wow, longer than me.
How long have you been streaming?
I started in like 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. I haven't been consistent with it.
Has it always
I feel like if I had been consistent with it, I'd probably have more followers, but
has it always been the game
there'd be
development?
periods where I just wouldn't stream, for a while and come back and
like the last couple of months.
Yeah.
It's like, what happened to Tobor? I haven't heard from him in a while.
Usually I'll get buried in Savage when that happens. But I mean,
that's good.
Yeah, I've been trying to do it more often because I also like when I'm in the right headspace for it, I actually anymore get a ton of work done when I'm streaming.
Oh, you work more when you're streaming?
Sometimes, like when I'm in the right headspace for it. So I'm trying to find the right balance where it's like
offline,
if I can just think about streaming the correct way, and work, like it can wind up being a very productive thing because I'm also streaming and then I'm also
because I notice sometimes like someone will say something in chat and then you'll open up a menu and you'll go on for like an hour explaining something. And then they go back to it and you're like, oh, I don't remember what I'm doing. And I'm thinking,
that can happen too. I can get derailed with.
I mean, I would do that. Like, I'm not trying to call you out on something. I'm just saying, like, I totally would do the same thing if I was like, I'm easily sidetracked with stuff like that too. That's why.
Yeah.
That's why this
and working
podcast
on something
is
like
that.
Savage is kind of a lot to juggle if you also have a chat thing going on.
Yeah. So
depending on what's happening, it can also be like, okay, there's people watching me. I have to produce. I have to.
Yeah, that's true.
Show that I've made progress.
So was So you always streamed just your. Well, I know you do games too, but when you started, was it just your development?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I started, like for example, the first ever stream, I think I was just me working on my game.
Oh, okay. And then now you've been starting to just mix in like some PlayStation.
Yeah, I would occasionally play a game here and there. But anymore, like I've gotten more excited about playing retro games.
Mm-hmm.
But even when I would play games, they were usually older PC games, like Blade of Darkness or something. I think was one of the first games I streamed, which is an older like hack and slash game from 2000.
I don't think I've heard of that. What's it called?
That's a cool game. Blade of Darkness. It's got a bunch of different names depending on what
Region you're in?
territory of the world you're in, but it's like Severance, Blade of Darkness.
Oh, okay.
Edge, Blade of, like, it's got a couple weird names, but that's a fucking cool, especially for when it came out. Like, it's amazing looking. Like
I've
the
never
lighting
seen
engine
that.
that they
I've never seen
developed
that.
is crazy.
Okay.
You can chop enemies into little bits and pieces. It's super satisfying. Like all of your swings like actually matter.
That's a reoccurring theme with you.
Yeah. You gotta cut up guys.
like Rune, you're like, oh yeah, he could chop off his arm and it regrows back with the lizard.
Same thing with the
movie,
Blade
the finger
Darkness too. Like you can pick up parts of their body and use them as weapons.
And the movie with the finger getting chopped off and
yeah. Maybe I'm sick.
I'm wearing some armor if I ever come over to visit.
Yeah.
Make sure the limbs stay intact.
Yeah.
At least they'll stay in the armor if something gets severed.
Yeah. Replace everything with Nerf or something at my house.
Oh man. Okay, so the groupies thing, did they come to you for that, or did you?
Yes. That's a weird thing, and it's like I don't want to.
If you don't want to talk about that, it's fine.
Throw shade on them or anything. No, yeah, we can talk about it. Like I talk about it every once in a while on the stream too. I think it was a bad decision for me to make. Like they were fine and they were all right to work with and everything, but it was like I was kind of talked into it. It was when the Kickstarter was going on, and it sounded like a good idea without any real forethought, like on my part. Like, and I didn't understand how bundles worked too at the time.
Yeah,
and how a lot of that culture sort of worked. Like, there seems to be a big like PC culture where like a lot of people try to get games at like free to nothing, and they'll take keys and they'll resell them for higher. They'll flip keys basically and like all this stuff. I was completely ignorant to a lot of that stuff at the time. And anyway, I had the Kickstarter and I had somebody was like, hey, I work with groupies and you should really do this because it helps charity and you'd get the word out about the Kickstarter. And then I talked to somebody from groupies and they're like, yeah, we'll promote your Kickstarter. We'll put it on the front page. It's a great thing. I understand that your game is an alpha. Nobody cares. It's fine. We do alpha games all the time. And it was also a green light promotion thing where it was like the games that were in the groupies bundle were meant to help.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing
developers. That were either in Steam Greenlight or had something like a Kickstarter going on.
Yeah, if you guys don't know, Groupies is kind of like a humble bundle type site where you pay a certain amount and
or get bundle stars or any of those other wacky ones that popped up.
But Groupies is more like just based. Well, not indie. Humble Bundle used to be strictly all indies too, indie games.
Yeah,
but now it's not. But yeah.
Well, now they're like books and stuff too. Like
they got everything,
audiobooks and stuff like that. Software, just straight up software.
Yeah. And video production.
So, but we did the Groupies thing. I don't think they promoted the Kickstarter. And it was just kind of weird. Like, and I just didn't understand what I was getting myself into. The thing.
So were people mad that
I did lose Kickstarter backers because of it?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Because people are gonna be like, "Why am I gonna pay this Kickstarter if I can just get on Groupies for like $2 or whatever?"
Which I think there's a philosophical difference there too with Kickstarter and Groupies or like a bundle thing or anything. Because like a bundle, I think perception wise is more retail. Kickstarter's like you're helping somebody try to realize their idea with Kickstarter. That's more nebulous. And I think there are some people that try to use Kickstarter as a pre-order when it really shouldn't be. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like Kickstarter is supposed to be like, if you like the idea and you want to help, realize it, like you can help and then see what happens. Like hopefully something good happens.
Yeah.
But the bundle thing it's more retail, and it's like Savage wasn't retail. Like, it still isn't.
Yeah.
Like it's not a finished product. And but I was, like most of it's my fault. Like I was stupid. I was like, yeah, okay, that sounds all right. I mean, helping charity and getting the word out. Sure, let's do it. But then you actually look at what happened. And it's like about 5,100 keys of Savage removed through the Groupies Greenlight bundle. And just for perspective, I made about $800 off of it.
Oh my God.
So
yeah.
So they're now like, around 5,000. And I don't necessarily know that they would be considered lost sales. Like
no,
those people would probably have only bought it because it was in the bundle.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
because it's like the pirate thing, right? It's like that's not really lost sales. Like those people probably weren't going to buy your game in the first place.
Yeah.
They're more interested in either pirating it or hacking it to try to make it work or something, and that's their hobby. But yeah, that's kind of the short of the bundle story. I think it wasn't a good idea for me to do. I don't think for people who wanted to buy it too. Like I feel bad that they haven't gotten the complete game yet, even if they did buy it for like half of a cent or something.
20 cents.
They still did it. They still went through the channel to buy it, and
yeah,
I feel bad that it's not done. And now there's 5,000 people out there wondering what the hell's Savage.
Have you had
doing.
someone come in your chat and be like, "Oh, I got your game from the Groupies bundle"?
Yeah, the people that have come into my chat with that have been nice.
Okay,
they're like, "Hey, the game's looking cool. Like, I feel like I got it. Like, seeing all the features that you put in. Like just yesterday, there was somebody that came in, like AC Wraith, I think is their name, and they came in. They're like, "Hey, I got this on bundle and." Seeing all the features that you put into it, I feel like it's a steal. That's like, yeah, it kind of is.
That's probably the best one that I've ever gotten from these bundles.
Yeah. And then occasionally there will be people in Steam who will be like, fuck this game. Like I've been waiting years and I got it. I bought this game on Humble Bundle or Groupies. Sorry.
Yeah.
Groupies, and it's not done yet. And it's like, yeah, well, I mean, you also bought it for half a cent or whatever. It's like, which I mean, again, like I'm not trying to downplay their purchase, because a purchase is a purchase, a deal is a deal.
Yeah.
So I feel bad that it's not out yet, but there's what I found with some, and it's not frequent. This doesn't happen frequently. It's once every blue moon or whatever I get a comment like that. But what I find with some of these dudes or whoever. Is that they don't understand that they already have access to the same build that the people on Steam do through Groupies. Like they can't play it in their Steam library yet, but I upload that same exact build to Groupies, so they can download it and play it that way if they wanted.
Yeah.
And I've gotten a couple people that were like, "Hey, I asked you a long time ago to upload the Groupies thing, and I'm going to go check and see if it is." And I'm like, "It is. It always has been."
Gotta keep in check with that.
So the Groupies thing is like, it's weird. Like, and I think a lot of the people that have used it don't quite understand.
There's
some of it works.
Like, not to say though, like I said earlier, I was like, oh, it's probably the best one of the best games. There is some hidden gems in there. Like a lot of people might think, oh, those there's not, because they're buying it for so cheap. There's some, like, I used to buy a lot of those before I started streaming. I would just buy a crap load of bundles, like from every bundle site.
Yeah.
And I would just play
them. You probably don't even know what you have anymore, huh?
I would just play them. And there's some really good ones. Like there's one called Little Racer Street, which is like an RC Pro-Am game. It's got really good music. It's got really good music, and it's got top down, and it's got multiplayer. And that was like in a bundle for like $1. So I literally got it for like $1 with like 15 other racing games. That
Yeah.
game is really good. Little
Yeah.
Racer Street. And then there was
And
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, that's the thing that I also kind of anymore don't like about bundles. I mean, it's great for consumers, but I think it's a little out of balance for the indie, smaller market industry. Like, especially during the big bundle sort of, I think there was a bundle bubble,
Yeah, there was definitely.
a lot of those guys, like, they just went directly to bundles, and now like their game is worthless now,
Yeah, because I remember that one indie game stand.
Yeah.
And I used to get games from there, and there used to be one game a day, a new game every day, and it would be for $1, and you could get it, and you could see a preview, and and some of the games weren't on Steam yet, but if they were on Steam, they would give you a key that you could activate on Steam once the game got fully released.
Yes, yeah.
And,
same deal with groupies too. Like they can play the game through Savage, for example. They can play through Savage, and then they also have a key that will unlock when the game goes retail. But yeah, like I feel like it's just a little out of balance where it's way awesome for somebody that wants to buy one of these games, and it really sucks for the actual developer.
Yeah. Because it's basically giving it out for free.
Just about, yeah.
That's how I see it. It's like 20 cents.
And it's not to say that there's not a place for this either. Like if your game has been out for 2 years, 3 years, or whatever, and it's just not moving units at all, and you want maybe a little bump, to help with something, like then maybe do a bundle, but then again, look at what through groupies, I had to sell over 5,000 keys to make not even $1,000, to make $800 through groupies.
Has any other company approached you with that kind of stuff, or just something similar, or?
Yeah, there's been a couple, and I've just been like, nah, not yet. I'll wait till my game is done before I do anything like that ever again,
Yeah. That's crazy. That kind of feels like how I get, games sent to me in my inbox, but like you get the opposite. You get people trying to put your game on their website, like that,
Yeah,
what I mean?
I'll get messaged by, publishers and stuff, and trying to take advantage of, usually, that just want another title that they can make a quick $1,000 off of or whatever, through sales or whatever. There's a lot of that. I mean, there's some that probably genuinely want to work with you and do some sort of partnership thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. You just got to weed out, like, some people don't have bad intentions. It depends how you look at it. Because, like, the music scene has the same type of, like, I was very familiar with the doing music thing, but the music thing has a lot of things like that, too, where they want to throw you in and be like, oh, but you got to sell this so many tickets and blah, blah, you know what I mean? They call that...
Oh, the pay to play you're talking about?
Yep.
Yeah, I used to do that too.
That's going after people who don't know the industry. They're just a lot of the new young bands that don't know what they're doing. They're like, oh, this sounds great. Or they'll put like a has-been act that was famous in like 2000 that had like one hit, and they'll put them as the headliner. They'll be like, oh, you could play with blah, 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 this band, and it's like some band you haven't heard of since the 2000s. You can
play with Buckeye Cherry.
Yeah. Yeah, and they'll be like, and you just got to sell so-and-so tickets in your hometown, but like...
Yeah, just sell 100 tickets, and it's like, and then when you actually try to do it, you realize how impossible it is.
Yeah, and the thing, too, is...
And you wind up owing that guy, like, $80, $100, $200, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
we did that, too. We did a lot of that. And that's what the Groupies Greenlight Bundle kind of felt like to me. It was like, oh, no, this is pay to play all over again.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's the kind of thing you got to watch out for, and that's scary, man. But like you say, you learn, right? You learn from that, and now you just say, "Oh, no, thank you," or whatever.
Yeah. With groupies, like it's like I did it. It's not like anyone at groupies was rude to me or anything, or like actively tried to lie to me or anything. It was just like once I kind of understood how it all worked, I was like, oh. That wasn't a good move. Oh well.
Yeah, and that's to say, like you were saying, like maybe if the game is really stale and it's been sitting for a while and it's old, and you want to try to push, something.
And if you are maybe making a sequel and you want more eyeballs on the first one,
Yeah, there's a time and place for that.
Yeah,
it's just that your time wasn't the right.
Yeah.
Right time for it.
Nowhere close to being finished, it turns out. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so what we talked about, my list is getting small here. So we
Okay.
talked about your first game that you ever played.
Mhm.
What about your first console?
Nintendo
Nintendo, huh?
Entertainment System. We stayed at a house. I lived with my grandparents in Arizona, and then we moved to Southern California. And before we moved into the house we were going to live in there, we were staying at like another place for a couple weeks, I think. I was really little, so it's kind of hard to remember some of the details time wise.
Mm-hmm.
But the place we stayed in was like furnished and stuff, and it was like kind of a stopover. And they had a Nintendo in there with Super Mario Brothers, and I was like blown away by this. It's like, because I was used to the maze game that I talked about before, and
Yeah.
like, the occasional arcade game that I didn't quite understand. This was something I could sit down with and focus on, in peace and quiet, and depending on who was around or whatever. But the Nintendo was in like one of the people we were renting the house from in one of the kids' rooms, so it was like in this little room, and I was able to play Super Mario Brothers, and from that point forward, I was like, I'm gonna work at Nintendo when I grow up. I'm gonna work for the Super Mario people when I grow up. And that was a trip. That was a trip to figure out how to play the game, how to I remember getting to the first castle in the first level. You go down the flagpole and you run into the castle. I thought that was the game.
That was it.
I completed the game. And then you see the thing where he goes down the pipe, and all of a sudden there's a dungeon, and it's like, what?
There's more.
What is this? It's going still. But just even the concept of, I remember like trying to jump over the first Goomba, and it was like I remember thinking that jumping and moving were two very different, sort of mutually exclusive things. And it was like I got to the first pipe where you have to jump over it, and I couldn't understand what was going on. And my mom was like, "Oh, hold a direction while you're in the air."
You know what? I remember. Like, whoa! Yeah, no, I remember a lot of people having that trouble the first time they were playing Mario. That's like a real thing.
Like, he only jumps up and down. How am I supposed to?
Yeah, I remember that. Like my little baby cousins, they would play, and they would always get stuck, like just jumping in front of the pipe, and like they couldn't go anywhere. You have to be like, no, hold this and do that, and then they would be like, and then you see the light bulb go off, and it's like, oh wow.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, specifically that being a firework. Like it felt like I evolved or something as a creature.
I also like you being like thinking the game finished. That's kind of true too, because a lot of the games before Nintendo, they were all like one screen games. Even the arcade games and like Atari games, like most Atari games were like one screen.
Mm-hmm. Generally, generally rare. Didn't scroll. Yeah,
It's very rare for even another scene to come in. Like Pitfall was kind of like the first game I remember, like it changing scenes, or like Adventure, or E.T. E.T. changed scenes. But other than that, it's usually like one scene most of the,
Yeah, even and too like that sort of. That trend held for a while too. Like some of the early NES games were still single screen. Like Bubble Bobble and Ice Climbers or whatever. And
Donkey Kong,
stuff like that. Yeah. They Popeye, So yeah, scrolling was kind of a novelty, I think. But I to me at least, it was still kind of brand new because like I didn't have a whole lot of basis for comparison. so I wasn't like totally blown away with that aspect of it, I don't think. But I remember the level thing being like insane. Like when I beat the level and there was another one afterward, I was like, you got to be kidding me. This is an entire universe to explore.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't really remember like the first time I played Mario. Because my first console was Atari.
Okay.
So mine was Laser Blast. That was like the first game I ever played.
Laser Blast.
And that's actually the same guy that makes Pitfall, I think. If I remember correctly.
I remember really wanting an Atari actually. Because I read a lot of comics growing up, and I read old comics too, like stuff that was printed like in the early 80s,
Oh yeah, and the back
late
of the
70s.
comics, they always had an
Uh-huh.
ad
And
for
they
a video game.
yeah, they always had like Atari ads in there, especially for like Star Wars Atari games and stuff. I was like, I want an Atari.
Yeah, Laser Blast is made by David Crane, who made Pitfall. A Boy and His Blob. Also another game that he made. That's pretty cool. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, point of view.
the Atari I remember playing because my dad owned it, and I was little. Like, I couldn't even talk when I was playing Atari. I remember. I remember playing the
Wow.
game, and not like that's how far back I remember playing
Yeah.
before I could even talk.
Like you were still learning how to live.
Yeah, I don't even know how I
Damn.
moved that controller though, honestly, because that shit's hard as hell. Atari joystick.
Yeah, you go back to that thing and it's like, Jesus, how come, this is going to give me carpal tunnel in a little while.
Yeah, like I've played recently and like broke some because the plastic is so brittle. Now you just like move in, and it's like, oh,
you go on eBay and get freaking
Yeah.
replacement.
But everyone uses a Sega controller now for that. Usually,
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, the pins. Yeah, you could plug one of those in.
makes it a lot easier.
I'm assuming you guys eventually got an NES, right?
Yeah, no, I got an NES later, and then
Mhm.
I was telling you about the Sega or Super Nintendo thing.
Yeah. What was your favorite Nintendo game as a kid?
Probably Mario 3.
That's a good one.
That one I remember
fine
playing more
choice.
than any other game.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. Yeah, you know what? Me too. Like as far as just raw time spent, probably Mario 3.
I used to
Zelda
play.
2 was always around too, though. Zelda 2 was around a lot at my dad's house, and then at my mom/grandparents' house. It was Mario 3. Mario 3 was one of the few games that we actually bought and owned. We didn't own many. It was usually we rented them.
Yeah, I didn't own many either. Another one I used to play a lot was Major League Baseball.
Yeah, we didn't have that one.
Just because the fact that you could make like 11 home runs in the first inning. That's what made it fun for me. And I'd be like, yeah, just smashing the computer. Like
Yeah,
literally,
that's
you could just the game was so easy. You could like home run with every single guy.
I do remember it was fun. We didn't own it, but I remember like family's house or a friend's house or something had it, and it was one of the more fun sports games on there. That
Yeah.
and I played a ton of Mario 3. I played a ton of Battletoads because we owned Battletoads.
Oh, that's nice.
Like, we
Yeah, I
actually
never
bought
owned that one.
Battletoads. I played a ton of Battletoads with a Game Genie because there were certain levels I just couldn't get past. And then Captain Skyhawk. A friend gave me his copy of Captain Skyhawk. So I think those were the 3 games that I played the most.
That's a Capcom game, right?
Captain Skyhawk was I don't know if it might be Konami.
Let me look real quick. Oh,
Sure.
it says Milton Bradley, but okay, I remember this box.
Okay,
art.
I can see like the blue and red M and B now on the box.
Yeah, it's a Milton Bradley, developed by Rare.
Okay, so like probably a Rare Ultra or something.
Yeah,
Or
developed
just
by
straight up
Rare.
Okay.
And published by Milton Bradley. And
Sorry, Ultra was Konami's alter ego, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Ultra
yeah.
was Konami's other
Yeah.
publishing thing, so
Yeah.
they could get around the limitations. Yeah, okay.
So in North America, it was Milton Bradley, and then in Europe, it was Rare. Rare published its own game.
Okay. Yeah, I played it. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, Captain Skyhawk feels very Rare-ish.
That's pretty cool. I never knew that about that game. See, we're learning.
That's
That's awesome.
Now I want to get a copy of Captain Skyhawk. I don't have one.
Stream that.
Oh, you know another one too, Conquest of the Crystal Palace. I love to death.
I don't know that one either. You're giving me some of the obscure ones.
That was another one that we owned that we bought from like Toys R Us or something.
You know what's one that I played that's kind of maybe obscure was Street Fighter 1999.
2010
or something like that. Yeah, Street
Yeah,
Fighter.
Street Fighter 2010. That game's awesome. It's hard as
It
balls.
is so. I've never beat that game. I never beat it.
Yeah, that's one I didn't buy till later, like in maybe 2000 when all those games were super cheap.
Oh,
where you get them for like $1, you know.
And
Like you could go into Funko. We had a Funko land near us, and all the games there were amazingly cheap. Or Game Crazy, or even GameStop was selling.
Yeah, I remember
games.
when you could get Nintendo games for like $5 or.
Yes, you could walk out of there with a stack of stuff.
Buy
like,
four for $5 and get one free. And then you get like Mega Man for like $5 and all kinds of stuff.
In some cases like 50 cents for a cartridge. It was amazing. Yeah,
I remember like the local rental store where I used to live. They went out of business. They were getting rid of their Nintendo games, and they were $5. You come with the box, the manual, everything, dude.
Oh damn!
I bought like 4 or 5 games,
the
but
price they were when they came out.
Yeah, they are there or more. The price or more.
Mm-hmm.
So Street Fighter 2010, actually, the main character is called Ken.
Yep.
And he's a formal martial arts champion. So I'm assuming it is the Ken from Street Fighter.
He's future Ken. He's cyborg Ken.
Yeah, that's crazy. I remember getting it because of Street Fighter. Like, I'm like, oh, wow, Street Fighter on Nintendo. Then I played. I'm like, what the?
The range of like motion you have in that game is insane. Like all the different things you can do is nuts.
Yeah, it's really hard, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
I remember
like you have to utilize everything that your character can do to beat it.
I remember spending so many hours trying to beat that, and it's not possible when you're a kid. Not for me, anyways.
Yeah, I didn't beat very many games as a kid.
No. And then I play them now, and I realize, wow, this is why I never beat this game.
Yeah.
There's so much cheap level design at the end of a lot of these Nintendo games.
Mm-hmm.
It's like some guy...
Yeah, like usually like flying projectiles and stuff that you just can't dodge.
Yeah, and then you don't know unless you played the level like 100 times.
Mm-hmm.
And then they punish you by taking you all the way back to the beginning because you didn't dodge this character that you couldn't even see. Like blind jumps and stuff. It's like some 12-year-old in Mario Maker just like put a random freaking flying bloopers all over the screen, and that's how they made the hard Nintendo games back then. Instead of like punish you mechanically because you're not good mechanically, they just punish you like blindly, which is bullshit.
Yeah, just make the screen so dense that it's like almost like luck if you make
get
it
through.
out.
Yeah, like the underwater level in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1.
Oh gosh.
With the zappers.
I did like that game. I still like that game too, but yeah, there's some bullshit in that game.
The zappers, dude. The swimming
Even
part?
Metroid, the heralded classic. Metroid, like toward the end there, gets stupid.
I've never gotten very far on Metroid 1.
Oh man, the ending has that same issue where it's just like I would have to look up to see if there's like a no hit run or something, but otherwise I don't believe that you can get through that game without taking a lot of damage.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Like later, like now I realize Nintendo games when I play them as an adult, I'm like, wow, there's so much of this in these games. Like some games, it would be like perfect masterpieces. Like I would say a 10 out of 10 game, but then you get to the end and there's these blind jumps and random enemies hitting you that you can't see off screen. It's like, you just ruined the game. It was great up until here. What is going on? What is this?
They had a deadline.
Dude, it's insane. I was reading, I don't know what developer it was, but they were saying because they did stuff like that to make it extremely hard because they didn't want people renting the game and beating it and then never buying it.
Ah, okay.
So it's like...
yeah, even then they were worried about that,
Money ruins
like a lot
art,
of people
man.
A lot of people think like the game industry has problems today, and it's like no, a lot of this stuff just has a different name now. It's like the current day, mobile stuff and microtransactions and loot chest shit. That's just arcade stuff all over again.
Yeah, that's
like you want to talk about pay to win, like go play
an arcade game.
Go play an arcade game, man. Like you had to spend, maybe $5 getting through that thing.
Yeah, any kind of beat 'em up game. They threw like Shredder at the end of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Arcade, where he does that zapper and he zaps you and you turn into a small turtle and instantly lose 1 life.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's like, come on, that's just gonna eat quarters.
The turtle beat 'em up has just awful things in it that are meant to munch quarters.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. Any arcade game, when you get to the end, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I guess we should wrap it up then, huh?
Okay. Yeah, the death of arcade. Good place to stop.
I mean, I don't want to keep you too long. I've already kept you for
Sure.
4 hours.
Hey, it's been fun though, man. Like,
Hell yeah.
It's been awesome. If I didn't have a bunch of crap to do, I could probably just keep going forever.
We'll have to do it again.
Yeah.
We'll get you on again and do the same thing because I think this is really cool and you have a lot to talk about. And I could come up with more questions. I could talk a lot.
Likewise. Yeah, likewise too. Like, I want to hear more about your stuff too, you know.
Sweet. So if you guys don't know Mr. Tobor, make sure you guys check him out at PlanetTobor /Savage. Get him on Twitter, ToborPrime, Twitch, ToborPrime. You can talk to him about this stuff as well if you like.
Yeah.
And also make sure you check out his game, Savage the Shard of Gosen. And hopefully
we can talk about Apple II maze games or something.
Yeah. All right. It's good talking to you.
You too, and thank you very much to you and your chat.